The senior year homeroom teacher has a baby obsession, wanting to decorate everything in a baby-themed style. Even on the day of the college entrance exam, she insisted on printing our admission tickets in pink and adding lots of cartoon stickers. Pink is so pretty, it's the color that truly belongs to babies. Just take these admission tickets into the exam hall, and you'll definitely come in first. Seeing that she was about to act recklessly, I quickly called the dean. He rushed over and scolded the homeroom teacher, then calmly escorted us into the examination hall. The whole class performed normally, and my childhood friend and I even both got into Tsinghua and Peking University. But on the day the results were announced, the homeroom teacher tearfully climbed onto the rooftop. Whoa, baby just wanted everyone to be in a good mood and take the pink exam admission tickets to the test. Why did she have to report baby? Baby researched for a long time to pick the prettiest pink. Baby also contributed to the college entrance exam. She cried and wiped her tears with her sleeve, but accidentally stepped on her skirt and fell down. The next day, my childhood friend brought the whole class to tie me up and push me down from the mountain peak, breaking every bone in my body. Who told you to meddle and target the teacher? We love using pink exam admission tickets. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the moment when the homeroom teacher pulled out the pink exam admission tickets. This time, I kept my mouth shut. Look, I specially printed your exam admission tickets in pink. Aren't they pretty? The homeroom teacher stood on the podium, holding a stack of pink papers in both hands, looking quite pleased. A wave of exclamations filled the classroom. So adorable, teacher, pink is so soothing. It really lifts the mood just looking at it. The girls in the front row were the first to chime in, their eyes sparkling, although the boys didn't say much. No one raised any objections. After all, ever since becoming pregnant, this homeroom teacher had embarked on an irreversible path of baby fever. The classroom was decorated in pink, the class uniforms were printed with cartoon patterns, and even she herself dressed up every day as if she were going to a kindergarten performance. Everyone was used to it. I looked at that stack of pink exam admission tickets, feeling a wave of nausea churning in my stomach. In my previous life, it was this very pink exam admission ticket that nearly prevented the entire class from entering the examination hall. Even after I called in the head teacher to mediate, we were still delayed for nearly 20 minutes before we could get in the college entrance exam. What does 20 minutes mean? Some people had a mental breakdown, some didn't finish filling in their answer sheets, and the class average score was nearly 20 points lower than in the usual mock exams. Although my childhood friend and I managed to get into Tsinghua and Peking University thanks to our solid foundation, I still remember the heart-pounding anxiety to this day. Unfortunately, not only did they not appreciate my kindness, but they also conspired to kill me. I snapped out of my thoughts, determined not to meddle in anything this time around, but the homeroom teacher had her eyes on me. Susie, she called my name. Why aren't you saying anything? Do you think the pink one looks good? The whole class turned their attention toward me. Jiang Wangshu's gaze was particularly unfriendly. It looks good. I forced a perfunctory smile at the corner of my mouth. Very cute, teacher. The homeroom teacher nodded with satisfaction. I knew Z had the best taste. Teacher, I have a question. A hesitant voice came from the back row. Wasn't the admission ticket supposed to be printed in black and white? Will a pink one work? The classroom suddenly fell silent for a moment. The homeroom teacher's face fell, her lips pursed, and her eyes immediately welled up with tears. Are you questioning the baby's ability? The baby specifically researched for a long time to pick the prettiest pink. How could it not be usable? That's not what I meant. Once it's printed, it's an exam admission ticket. Who cares what color it is? Jiang Wangshu glared fiercely at that classmate. The teacher worked so hard to prepare for us, and instead of saying thank you, you're still nitpicking. That's right. The teacher is so thoughtful. Pink is so nice, it looks festive and will definitely bring good luck for the exams. Watching all of this, I sneered and lightly tapped the desk twice. The departure bell rang, and the homeroom teacher wiped the corner of her eye. All right, it's time to head to the exam hall. I'll take you there, but no noise on the bus. Okay, be good. The entire class stood up with a rustle, grabbing their backpacks and heading out. Students passed their exam admission tickets around, some taking photos to post on social media, others holding them up to the sunlight to see the translucent patterns. It's really so beautiful. Our teacher is just too amazing. All the other classes have black and white ones, but ours are in color. Having a homeroom teacher like this is simply too blissful. I followed the crowd onto the bus, closed my eyes, and curled up the corners of my mouth. Pink. Huh. I wonder if the proctors outside the exam hall will accept this pink admission ticket that the baby carefully selected. After everyone got on the bus, the homeroom teacher suddenly walked up to me. Z, could you let the baby check your admission ticket? Her tone was soft and gentle as she said this, but her hand reached directly toward me and snatched the ticket from my grasp. The next second, a crisp sound rang out. A corner of my exam admission ticket was instantly torn off. Oh dear, the baby didn't mean to. She covered her mouth. Her eyes wide open, I stared at the small piece of paper on the ground and smiled speechlessly. Out of all the admission tickets in the entire vehicle, she had to single out mine and even tear off a corner, the resentment from 2 lifetimes condensed as I looked at her coldly. Teacher, are you deliberately targeting me? The bus fell silent for a moment, the homeroom teacher's tears instantly welled up. How could you say that? You're wronging Bao Bao. Bao Bao just wanted to help you check. Before I could speak, Jiang Wangshu, who was sitting beside me, had already stood up. Suzy, that's enough. The teacher already said it was an accident. Is it really necessary? Embarrassing the teacher in front of so many people. When did you become so harsh? Harsh, I sneered coldly. Jiang Wangshu, are you really blind or just pretending not to see? Out of 39 admission tickets in the whole class, whose did she not check? And why did she specifically check mine, even tearing off a corner? Without waiting for Jiang Wangshu to retort, I continued, over these 3 years. Have you all thought this class was great? The classroom was beautifully decorated, activities were lively and colorful, and other classes envied us. But do you know that all of this was arranged by me? During the high school sports meet in our second year, she insisted on organizing a fairy tale themed parade, yet, she only notified me the day before to borrow costumes. I ran all over the city's performance costume shops but couldn't find 30 sets. In the end, it was a friend I knew outside of school who helped by arranging a shipment from the neighboring city, which arrived overnight after working through the night. Last semester during the midterm exams, the proctor was already at the door when she realized she had forgotten to pick up the exam packets. It was me who ran to the academic affairs office to get them and distribute them on the spot. With every sentence I spoke, the atmosphere in the carriage grew heavier. When you praised this class for being good, it was always me covering for you. When you all think the homeroom teacher is dedicated, it's actually me cleaning up her mess. I stared at the homeroom teacher, her tears still glistening on her face, but her eyes began to flicker with unease. She started disliking me more and more, all because of these things. If it weren't for the fact that there are only 2 months left until the college entrance exam, I would have been removed as class monitor long ago. The bus fell completely silent. Jiang Wangshu fell silent for a few seconds, then suddenly smiled. Are you done? He walked over, took my exam admission ticket, and looked up at me. Isn't it boring to bring up all these old grudges? You're the class monitor. Helping the teacher is what you should do. When the teacher was working hard elsewhere, why didn't you say anything? He pulled his exam admission ticket from his pocket and, without hesitation, tore off a small corner from the edge. It's just a torn corner, no big deal. Is that fair enough? The carriage fell silent for 3 seconds, then, one by one, classmates began to move. I think so too. It's not a big deal. It's just a torn corner. It's still usable. A boy in the front row took the lesson to heart and tore a corner off his own exam admission ticket. Then came the second person, the third person. The sound of paper tearing echoed back and forth inside the bus. I leaned back in my seat, feeling utterly absurd. First, it was printed in pink, and now a corner is missing. You'll just have to wait to be turned away at the entrance to the college entrance exam hall. Just then, the principal boarded the bus for the routine inspection. He had just boarded the bus when his eyes widened in shock. What's going on with the admission tickets in your hands? The principal strode onto the bus, his face ashen with anger. Why are these admission tickets pink, and why are the edges torn? Zhao Meijin. The homeroom teacher shrank back slightly, then quickly straightened up. Principal, don't be so harsh. I just wanted the students to feel a little better. Feel better. The principal was furious. The college entrance exam admission tickets have clear regulations, white background, black text, no decorations allowed. Not only are their tickets the wrong color, but the anti-counterfeiting codes have been torn off. How are they supposed to get in? The homeroom teacher's tears suddenly streamed down her face as she crouched in the aisle, crying so hard she could barely catch her breath. Wah wah wah, you're being mean to me again. I did all of this for the students. I spent so much time researching to pick the prettiest shade of pink. She suddenly looked up, pointing at me through tear-blurred eyes. It was her who snitched on you, wasn't it? You sent her to spy on me. The entire class's gaze instantly fell on me. I leaned back in my seat expressionlessly, saying nothing. Jiang Wangshu was the first to stand up, blocking the homeroom teacher. Principal, don't push us too far. Do you know how much effort our teacher has put in? What's wrong with pink? What's wrong with a missing corner? We like it. Yes, we're happy to. Who says the exam admission ticket can't be pink? We're the top Tsinghua Peking University class in the whole city. Who dares to stop us from taking the exam? Voices of support rose and fell throughout the carriage, faces flushed with emotion. Several students stood up, half pushing and half shoving The principal toward the car door. The principal trembled with anger. He glanced at his watch. There were less than 30 minutes left before the first college entrance exam subject began. It would take another 20 minutes by car to get to the exam venue from here. There was simply no time left to argue. Just wait here. I'll go back to the school to reprint the exam admission tickets and bring them to you right away. He gritted his teeth as he finished speaking, then turned and got out of the car. As soon as the car door closed, a burst of cheers erupted inside the vehicle. Yay, we won. The principal backed down. Haha. The homeroom teacher stood up from the aisle, wiped away her tears, and revealed a triumphant smile. Jiang Wangshu turned around, raised her exam admission ticket, her voice filled with disdain. Who cares about his black and white printout? We want the pink ones the teacher gave us. Our whole class recognizes these. That's right, we recognize these. Pink is so pretty. What does the principal know? We're the Tsinghua Peking University class. Who would dare stop us from taking the exam over such a trivial matter? He scoffed, his gaze sweeping over me. Intentionally or not, I didn't look at him, just touched the black and white exam admission slip hidden in my inner pocket. Let them make a fuss. The more they fuss, the better. The bus pulled up at the entrance of the examination hall, and a female teacher wearing invigilator's uniform stepped on board. Class 7, Grade 12, I'm the examination staff. Check your admission tickets, then get off the bus and enter the hall in order. The homeroom teacher immediately stepped forward, her voice sickeningly sweet. Hello there, look at our class's exam admission tickets, aren't they especially pretty? Bao Bao specifically printed them in pink for the children. She snatched the admission ticket from Jiang Wangshu's hand and held it up in front of the proctor. The proctor took it, his brow furrowed into a tight knot. The college entrance examination admission ticket must have a white background with black text, and no decorations are allowed. Yours is pink, has stickers on it, the edges are missing a corner, and the anti-counterfeiting code is barely visible. The homeroom teacher blinked and said, but teacher, this is the baby's heartfelt gesture. Jiang Wangshu also provocatively spoke up, we just like pink, so what? Are you going to stop us from taking the exam just because it's pink? The proctor gave her a cold glance. That's right, pink admission tickets are not allowed for the exam. Let me reiterate, pink admission tickets do not meet the regulations. If you continue to disrupt the order of the examination hall, I will call the police immediately. As soon as these words were spoken, the students instantly panicked. The class monitor was the first to stand up, her voice trembling. What should we do then? Didn't you say we could use them as long as they were printed out, right, teacher? Didn't you say? There was no problem. The homeroom teacher's face stiffened, her eyes darting around for a moment before suddenly landing on me. Suzy, you're the class monitor. Why didn't you remind Bao Bao? Didn't you know the exam admission tickets had to be in black and white? It's all your fault. I'm so angry I could laugh. Teacher, I reminded you more than once. Last week you had us look at the sample, and I told you the college entrance exam admission ticket has standard requirements, white background with black text. What did you say? I mimicked her tone. Baby thinks pink looks better. You young people don't understand aesthetics. The carriage fell silent for a moment. Also, last Thursday, Teacher 1 from the Academic Affairs Office specifically came to the class and said that the format of the admission ticket must not be modified without permission. You were there at the time, and you promised nicely. I understand. But then you went and printed it in pink. The homeroom teacher's face flushed red and then turned pale. Jiang Wangshu saw her in an awkward position and glared at me fiercely. Everyone, stay calm. Isn't the principal already on his way? He went back to the school to reprint the admission ticket and will be here soon. That's right, the principal went to print it, but will it be in time? Someone timidly asked, their voice trembling with tears. Jiang Wangshu gritted his teeth. We still have time. You can still enter the exam hall within 15 minutes after the college entrance exam starts. Don't panic and lose your composure. He spoke with unwavering determination, yet he couldn't help but glance repeatedly out the window. Time passed minute by minute. The crowd of people seeing off the examinees outside the test center gradually thinned out, as candidates from other schools had already entered one after another. The bus was filled with a suffocating sense of anxiety. Some began to sob quietly, others kept glancing at their watches, and a few clutched their pink admission tickets so tightly their knuckles turned white. The homeroom teacher huddled in her seat, occasionally shooting me a glance, her eyes filled with resentment. Finally, with less than 3 minutes left before entry was prohibited, a taxi pulled up just outside the security cordon of the exam site. The car doors swung open abruptly, and Principal Zhou, clutching a stack of stark white papers, stumbled his way over. They're here, the exam admission Tickets are here, the carriage erupted in a burst of cheers, with several students even leaping to their feet in excitement. Make way, make way. The principal, panting heavily, ran to the car door and was just about to step inside. Wait a second, the homeroom teacher suddenly stood up, staggering as she rushed down the steps and grabbed the exam admission ticket from the principal's arms. You don't need to, we don't need your charity. Principal Zhou was stunned. Are you crazy? This is the student's exam admission ticket. The homeroom teacher's tears welled up again. The baby doesn't recognize this. If you admit it, you'll say the baby is wrong. The baby is not wrong. Pink is not wrong. The two of them began to struggle at the car door. Principal Zhou was so anxious that he broke into a sweat, afraid of tearing the paper and not daring to use too much force. Let go of me. This is about the future of 39 children. Baby doesn't need your pity. Baby will prove that. Pink can also. The homeroom teacher gave a forceful tug, slipped underfoot, and her skirt tangled around her ankle. Everyone only had time to see her suddenly fall backward. After a scream, she fell into the nearby fountain pool while clutching that stack of exam admission tickets. By the time she was pulled out, the admission tickets in her arms were completely soaked and ruined. My admission tickets. The invigilator glanced at his watch and sighed. All candidates must present a valid admission ticket to enter the examination hall, otherwise, entry will be denied. What should we do then? Can we not take the exam? We've been preparing for 12 years. The carriage was filled with sobbing. The homeroom teacher stared blankly at the scene, murmuring to himself, I didn't mean for this to happen. I just didn't want to admit I was wrong. I wasn't wrong. Amidst the cries and breakdowns, I pulled out my exam admission ticket. Teacher, may I enter the exam hall now? The invigilator took my admission ticket, carefully checked the photo and information against it, and then scanned the anti-counterfeit code with a scanner. No problem, you can enter. She stepped aside to clear the passage, casting a cold glance at the crowd in the carriage who were crying uncontrollably. I stepped off the bus, and behind me, there was a complete silence for 3 seconds before chaos erupted. How does she have an admission ticket? Didn't the principals all get soaked and ruined? Where did she get it from? Jiang Wangxu was the first to rush out of the car door, grabbing my wrist tightly. Suzy, where did you get your exam admission ticket? I shook off his hand, pulled out the neatly folded white paper from my pocket, and unfolded it in front of him. White background, black text, standard song typeface, with a complete and clear anti-counterfeiting code, and a red official seal of the Academic Affairs Office stamped at the bottom. No stickers, no patterns. The corners so smooth they could be used as a ruler. A backup exam admission ticket from the Academic Affairs Office, I said calmly as I put the paper away. I printed an extra copy last week, just in case. Jiang Wangxu's expression changed. Do you have a backup admission ticket? Why didn't you say so earlier? Say so earlier? I was amused by this remark. I did say it. When the principal boarded the bus, I told him that all of your admission tickets had issues and asked if he should go back to school with you to reprint them. How did you all say it? I glanced around at the classmates who had gathered, imitating his tone from back then. Don't listen to his nonsense. We'll use the pink one the teacher gave us. Our whole class recognizes this. A few boys' faces flushed bright red, and some lowered their heads. Jiang Wangxu suddenly turned to look at the homeroom teacher. The homeroom teacher was still crouched by the pool, soaked to the bone, the admission tickets in her arms. Now a pulpy mess of paper. She looked up, her lips trembling for a long moment before she suddenly pointed at me and screamed. It was you. You colluded with the principal. You deliberately didn't remind Bao Bao, just so you could watch the whole class fail. I smiled. Teacher Zhao, do you think everyone is like you? I'm not that bored, nor do I have that much time to spend targeting others. I pointed to my own head. My time is spent on studying. You. I turned and walked toward the exam hall, my steps light and brisk. From behind me came the sound of suppressed sobbing and the noise of mutual accusations and arguments. It's all your fault for tearing up the admission ticket. How was I supposed to know this would happen? Jiang Wangxu started it. Go find him. Enough. Is now the time to shift blame. For the first subject, Chinese, I answered steadily. When I came out after the exam, there were hardly any people left outside the testing center. The bus was still parked in the same spot, but the classmates who had been on it were gone. I saw a few familiar figures near the security booth at the entrance, gathered around a teacher from the Academic Affairs Office, pleading, Teacher, is there really no way? We're students from the Tsinghua Peking University class, our grades. The teacher from the Academic Affairs Office shook his head, his expression also grim. The exam admission ticket is a strict requirement. Without it, you cannot take the exam. You knew the rules, so why didn't you handle it earlier? It's all Zhao Meijian's fault. A girl's voice rang out sharply. She insisted on making pink exam admission tickets. Even when the principal sent them over, she wouldn't let us use them. Don't you have any responsibility yourself? Didn't you also say at the time, pink looks so nice? That's because of Jiang Wanshu. Now it's my fault again. Jiang Wanshu's voice came from the crowd, filled with suppressed anger. The admission tickets were printed by the teacher. I didn't force you to use them. I did not stop walking for the afternoon science comprehensive and English exams. I still arrived on time, answered the questions, and handed in my papers. The most unusual examination hall in the entire testing center was the one assigned to our class. Out of 39 seats, only one was occupied, mine. 2 invigilators stood guard over 39 empty desks, their expressions a mix of emotions. When the final bell rang to signal the end of the last exam, I put down my pen and let out a long, deep sigh. It's over. I walked out of the examination hall, and Principal Zhou was waiting for me at the door. He saw me coming out and nodded toward me. How did the exam go? I performed as usual. He fell silent for a moment, his gaze shifting to the now quiet teaching building behind him. Out of 39 people, only you were sitting. In my 12 years as principal, I've never seen anything like this. I didn't respond. Zhao Meijin has been taken away. He paused briefly. When the Education Bureau officials arrived, she was still crying by the pool, saying things like baby isn't convinced and baby is going to sit in protest at the Education Bureau's entrance. Her husband rushed over from work and immediately said he wanted a divorce, and he didn't want the child either. I listened, feeling no emotional turmoil inside. In my previous life, after she caused my death, she probably cried and said, baby didn't mean it. In the same way, let's go, I'll take you back. I shook my head, no need, I'll walk by myself. By the time I walked out of the exam center gate, the sky had already darkened. A few parents from our class were gathered at the entrance. Some were on the phone, some were crying, and others were clutching the sleeves of the exam center security guards, refusing to let go. Our child's grades are so good, why aren't they allowed to take the exam? Isn't it just the color of a piece of paper? What's the harm in making an exception? That crazy woman Zhao Meijin, I'm going to sue her. I kept my head down and skirted the edge of the crowd, but I was still recognized. Suzy, a middle-aged woman, rushed over and stopped me. It was the class monitor's mother. In my previous life, her son got into Fudan University, and she bragged about it in the parent group chat all summer long. How do you have an exam admission ticket? What gives you the right to take the exam? Her eyes were red. Did you know something in advance? Did you collude with the principal? Why didn't you speak up? Are you happy to see the whole class unable to get in? I stopped walking and looked at her. Auntie, I've been speaking up all along, and I've been trying to stop it, but they said I was being a killjoy, that I was targeting the teacher, that I was jealous of how good the homeroom teacher is. My words were calm. Now you ask me why I didn't speak up. I put the exam admission ticket into my bag and zipped it up, because I was already expelled from this class long ago. Auntie, she stood there with her mouth agape, unable to utter a single word. I turned and walked away. After that came the summer vacation, a long and quiet summer vacation. On the night the results came out, I sat alone in front of the computer to check my score. When the numbers appeared on the screen, I stared at them for a long time, then sent a text message to Principal Zhou. 712, he replied quickly. Tsinghua is a sure thing. Congratulations. I turned off my phone and lay in bed staring at the ceiling. In my previous life, when Jiang Wanshu and I were together, he once stood at the school gate and said to me, we'll still be at the same school in the future. But when he led the whole class to push me off the mountain peak, his hand didn't even tremble. In this life, Tsinghua and Peking University are still Tsinghua and Peking University, but I am the only one left. In August, the admission letter arrived. When I went to the school to pick it up, the security guard handed me the envelope and sighed, saying, you're the only one from your class who came to get the admission letter. The others, sigh. I didn't ask what happened to the others. I later pieced it together from fragments in the class group chat. All 38 students in the class, along with the homeroom teacher Zhao Meijin, were classified by the Education Bureau as a serious examination incident. Zhao Meijin had her teaching qualification revoked and is permanently barred from teaching. All 38 students were absent from the exam and were given 0 marks. Some chose to repeat the year, while others had their families sell everything to prepare to send them abroad. Jiang Wanshu chose to repeat the year. His mother came to the school twice to make a scene, once to see the principal, and once to corner me, but both times, she was shut down. Even the last time, the principal called the police, and only then did they finally settle down. In September, I dragged my suitcase and headed to Beijing. The campus of Tsinghua University is vast, with ginkgo leaves just beginning to turn yellow. My footsteps paused for a moment, then I withdrew my gaze, pushed open the dormitory door, and placed my luggage on the bed by the window. Behind me were the laughter of my roommates. College life is much calmer than I imagined. I attend classes, conduct experiments, and write papers as usual, and I've made some new friends. Occasionally, someone gets curious and asks me what exactly happened during the college entrance exam. I always smile and say nothing. After a long time, no one really asked anymore. In the winter of my sophomore year, I ran into Jiang Wangshu at the subway station. He had lost a lot of weight, wearing a faded down jacket and carrying a bag of books in his hand. The moment our eyes met, both of us froze for a second. Suzy, he spoke first, his voice noticeably hoarser than before. I stopped and looked at him, my gaze as calm as still water. We stood a meter apart, neither of us taking a step forward. Are you studying here, Tsinghua University? I know, he smiled, the corner of his mouth pulling into an angle that wasn't particularly pleasant. I repeated a year and got into Beihang University. That's great. I genuinely believe that being able to withstand such a huge public opinion storm and pressure to repeat a year is already quite impressive. He fell silent for a moment, then suddenly lowered his head, staring at the plastic bag in his hand. I'm sorry, he spoke very softly, almost drowned out by the sound of the subway pulling into the station. I've thought a lot about what happened that year. His hand tightened around the bag. I know it's too late for anything I say, but I'm sorry. I looked at him, remembering a long time ago when we were still in the same kindergarten, and he would secretly share half of his little blanket with me during nap time. Later, as we grew up, he learned to join in the jeering, to follow the crowd, to step up and play the hero when everyone's emotions ran high. He also learned to ignore my feelings, even to stand against me. I accept your apology. He raised his head, his eyes slightly red. But I haven't forgiven you. He opened his mouth as if wanting to say something, but in the end, he just nodded. I know. After saying this, he stepped aside to make way. I tightened my grip on my backpack strap, walked past him, and didn't look back. Beihang University and Tsinghua University aren't far apart, but the distance between him and me was never just a few subway stops. In the winter of my junior year, I was stopped at the entrance of Tsinghua University's cafeteria. Zhao Meijin stood before me, looking much more respectable than she did 3 years ago, but her eyes hadn't changed, that mix of grievance and stubbornness. I knew it all too well. Suzy, long time no see. When she called my name, a smile hung at the corner of her mouth, but her tone didn't sound like a casual greeting. I stopped in my tracks and didn't speak. You're doing quite well. She looked me up and down. A top talent from Tsinghua or Peking University, with a bright future ahead. Is there something you need? I asked. Of course there is. She pulled a craft paper envelope from her bag and waved it in front of me. A re-examination notice from the Education Bureau. I appealed for 3 years about that incident back then, and it's finally been accepted for review. My heart skipped a beat, but I kept my expression unchanged. I don't think the conclusion of the accident back then was fair. She took the envelope back and said slowly, it's true that I printed the admission tickets in pink, but in the end, it was you, Jiang Wangshu, who tore the corners of the entire class's admission tickets. She took a step forward, her voice not loud, but each word was enunciated clearly. 38 students missing the exam isn't entirely my responsibility, yet in the end, all the disciplinary actions fell on me. Revoked qualification, banned from teaching for life, and those students who led the commotion didn't even get a warning, especially Jiang Wangshu. When she said this name, she smiled. I've looked into it. He retook the exam for a year and got into Beihang University, and now he's doing just fine. Why should he? Are you here to settle a score? Then you should go find Jiang Wangshu. I closed the book. In that incident, I didn't report you, and you weren't punished. Why come to me? Because you know best what happened back then. She stared at me. You were the only witness, and the only one who walked away unscathed. My lawyer says that as long as you're willing to testify and confirm that the students' actions were also at fault, I can apply to have the punishment revoked. Why should I help you? Zhao Meijin tilted her head slightly. Help? I'm not here to ask for your help. I'm here to remind you that if the review goes to court, you'll be summoned to testify. You're a student at Tsinghua now, with a bright future ahead of you, but if, in court, everyone discovers that the only lucky one who could take the exam back then managed to escape by secretly printing a backup admission ticket in advance. She paused, a flicker of shadow passing through her eyes. What do you think others will say? Will they think you deliberately watched your classmate jump into a pit of fire? I was stunned for a moment, then laughed. She truly believed she had caught my weakness. Ms. Zhou. I freed up a hand to point at her envelope. Before you filed your Appeal, did you first look at the investigation files from that year? Her smile froze for a moment. The backup admission ticket wasn't something I secretly printed myself. I went to the academic affairs office to collect it in front of the whole class. Teacher Wang from the academic affairs office can testify, and the hallway surveillance footage can serve as evidence. Zhao Meizhen's expression changed. Also, you say that the 38 people who missed the exam are not entirely your responsibility. When the principal brought the backup admission tickets to the bus door, who stopped them from being used, who threw the admission tickets into the pool? There are surveillance cameras at the entrance of the examination hall, and the bus has a dash cam. More than one examination staff member witnessed the scene. Do you think that after 3 years, no one remembers these things? Her lips moved, and that familiar look of grievance began to surface. You should have held me back at the time. This sentence made me laugh directly. In our senior year of high school, I cleaned up your mess for 3 years, the last time I didn't cover for you, and now it's my fault for not holding you back. Miss Zhao, have you seen a doctor in the past 3 years? She suddenly turned her head, her eyes reddening with a mix of anger and shame. The doctor said I have postpartum anxiety, and now you're using that against me. I'm not attacking you, I'm genuinely suggesting it. I spoke calmly, because look, 3 years ago you blamed everything on me. And 3 years later you're still blaming others. This isn't about postpartum anxiety, it's about your refusal to admit fault. Think it over carefully. Later, I heard from Principal Zhou that Zhao Meizhen's appeal was rejected. She sat at the entrance of the Education Bureau all afternoon before finally being dragged away by her mother. Back then, those classmates who tore up their exam admission tickets either ended up attending ordinary universities after retaking the exams or are still working odd jobs to this day. Jiang Wangshu was the only one among them who got into a 985 university. Later on, someone in the class group chat posted a screenshot of one of her updates on a social media platform. She mentioned that she was preparing to become a psychological counselor because no one understands the feeling of being misunderstood better than I do. I glanced at the comments below, where some comforted her by saying, "You did nothing wrong," while others remarked, "Can you afford to ruin the futures of 38 students?" I stared at that post for a long time, just smiled, and then locked my phone screen. Time flew by quickly. In my senior year, I was accepted into a graduate program and stayed at Tsinghua University to continue my studies. Jiang Wangshu graduated from Beihang University and went to work at an aerospace research institute in the south. Occasionally, I come across his updates on social media, either working overtime or on the road for business trips. That winter, I returned to my hometown for the new year and ran into the class monitor at the mall. When our eyes met, he clearly froze for a moment. "Suzy," he called out, his expression somewhat complicated. "Long time no see." I stopped. After chatting for a bit, I learned that he didn't retake the college entrance exam back then. Instead, he went directly to a vocational college and, after graduation, worked in sales at a relative's company. "What about you?" he asked. "I got a recommendation for graduate school and am still at Tsinghua." He fell silent for a moment, then suddenly smiled, a smile that carried something indescribable. "Why didn't you tell us back then?" I knew what he was referring to, but I didn't explain, because I had already explained too many times, before everything happened, and each of them chose not to listen. After that, I never returned to that classmate group chat. I only heard occasionally that Zhao Meizhen took the teacher qualification exam a few more times, but she never passed the review due to her revocation record. Later, she could only work as a substitute teacher at a private kindergarten. "The kindergarten doesn't check for qualifications," the principal said. "She gets along quite well with the children, although she can be a bit emotionally unstable at times. The kids all really like her." I once found a photo of a kindergarten activity online. Zhao Meizhen was squatting among a group of children, wearing a rabbit ear headband, tilting her head and making a peace sign. She was looking at the camera, smiling exactly as she used to, with that same stubborn yet aggrieved light still in her eyes. Perhaps she finally found a place that suits her. I stared at that photo for a long time, then closed the webpage. My heart as calm as still water. After graduating with a master's degree, I stayed in Beijing to work as an assistant researcher at a research institute. 1 year, while passing through my hometown on a business trip, I saw Jiang Wangshu's mother at the train station exit. She was hunched over waiting for the bus. I didn't go up to say hello, and she didn't recognize me either. Life has been quiet and fulfilling. Occasionally, when working late into the night, I think back to the winter of my senior year of high school when it snowed heavily. Back then, the whole class had a snowball fight on the playground, and we all laughed so happily. The happiness back then was real, and the hurt that came later was real too. One day, I came Across a high school graduation photo, with 39 people standing in 3 rows, I stood beside Jiang Wangshu, and during the group photo, he turned his head and smiled at me. I remember that on the day the photo was taken, he promised to attend the same university as me and to stay together for a lifetime. Unfortunately, things didn't go as planned, and people's hearts are prone to change. I looked at the photo for a long time, then tucked it into a book I would never open again. Those days of crying, making a fuss, and tearing things apart have passed just like that. Everything is over. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. In my past life, I was captured by human traffickers while trying to save my brother, only for him to turn around and falsely accuse me of wandering off because I was playful, and he found a new sister to replace me. When I had suffered through all kinds of hardships and was finally found by my parents, my brother became even more ruthless, forcing me to jump from the 18th floor along with the fake daughter. Reborn, I returned to the moment when I was being dragged into the trafficker's car for saving my brother, just as despair filled my heart. Bullet comments suddenly appeared before my eyes. Great, our Mia won't have to suffer anymore. That damned fake rich daughter is the one who should have been trafficked. Boohoo, so touching. Mia not only returned to the past but also got 2 chances to exchange lives. She will definitely exchange with the fake rich daughter and then reclaim her life as the family's pampered darling. But instead, I said to the exchange system, I want to exchange my life with my brother's. Hearing my words, the bullet comments boiled over like water. This isn't right. Why would Mia want to exchange lives with her brother? Her brother was just deceived by the fake rich daughter. What? Swap lives with my brother, then how can I watch Mia being doted on by her overprotective brother? Has Mia gone crazy? If this continues, I'm going to side with the fake daughter and think the female protagonist deserves it. I sneered, even though my suffering clearly stems from my older brother. The bullet comments all seem to ignore this fact. In my previous life, I watched as several people surrounded my brother, dragging him into a car without a second thought. I rushed forward and bit and kicked the human trafficker. Yenmi exploded with all my strength, with only one thing on my mind: save my brother. Jason also took this opportunity to break free from the trafficker's grasp, and I was beaten to a pulp by the trafficker, yet I felt thrilled inside, proud of myself for saving my brother. But I didn't see Jason slow down as I was tied and forced into the car, nor the gradual curling of his lips. Later, after enduring endless torture and finally being found by my family, he not only showed no remorse for my abduction but blamed my disappearance on my own playfulness. I still remember his condescending appearance to this day. Now that you're back, you should know your place and not try to compete with Jenny for anything, otherwise, my parents and I won't tolerate you. Jenny was the fake daughter he brought back to replace me. Jason's indulgence made Jenny unaware that she was occupying a position that wasn't hers, and I became the thorn in her side. She tried every means to frame me, pretending in front of our parents that I pushed her, breaking my belongings, and claiming I thought our parents were partial, shaping me into a manic patient. I mustered the courage to explain to my parents, but they wouldn't listen at all. In their hearts, Jenny was a flawless white moon, so how could she possibly use tactics against someone like me, whom they considered worthless? Jason heard me tattle and dragged me by my hair back to the home where I had been trafficked before, leaving me to be abused and tortured by that family until I was barely alive. It wasn't until my parents asked about me that he finally brought me out. He warned, "You'd better behave yourself, or I can send you back here anytime and let them teach you a proper lesson. For a worthless woman like you, we're already merciful to let you come back, so stop deluding yourself about competing with Jenny." With this kind of support, Jenny became even more brazen. She bullied me in every possible way, throwing dead rats on my bed, while pricking my private parts with needles and laughing uncontrollably. "Wendy, go ahead and tattle again, see if your parents believe me or you. Can't you tell, you're not needed in this family, you're redundant." I closed my eyes, afraid that tears might fall. When I stepped onto the rooftop, I thought that if heaven gave me a chance to start over, I would never be so foolish again. Unexpectedly, I really did start over, and even got bound to the life exchange system. Thinking of this, I said firmly, "I'm sure I want to exchange destinies with Jason." With the system's announcement, Wendy and Jason's fates begin to swap. The human traffickers who had forcefully dragged me into the car looked dazed for a moment. One of the women spoke up, "Boss, why did we kidnap this little girl? We can't sell her, and nobody would want her as a child bride since they just think she's a freeloader, right?" The man slapped his forehead. "I don't know what I was thinking just now. Hurry, turn back and see if that boy is still there." As the car turned Back, I gradually saw Jason's figure in the rearview mirror. He was sucking on a lollipop and smiling in my direction, showing no intention of calling for an adult. My heart grew even colder. It turned out that at such a young age, my brother already couldn't tolerate me. When he saw the car returning, panic appeared on my brother's face, which had been contentedly licking the candy. He tried to run, but it was already too late. The van stopped in front of Jason, and the human trafficker rushed out. Dragging Jason toward the vehicle, Jason struggled to resist, but the man slapped him so hard he saw stars, then spat in his face, trying to match strength with me. "You've got a long way to go, you little brat." The trafficator hauled Jason into the van by force. While I was pushed to the ground, watching the car drive away, I sat on the ground, tilted my head back to force back the tears that were about to fall, and smiled silently. I had finally escaped the fate of being trafficked and abused so many years, so many years. I had suffered for so many years, and the source of all this suffering was just a little girl who loved her brother and wanted to do everything in her power to save him. Brother, I hope you enjoy the fate you should have suffered. I don't know how long it had been when I ran home crying, screaming loudly. Something terrible happened. Brother has been taken away. When I got home and saw my parents, I fainted. No matter what they did after hearing the news, I wouldn't open my eyes. Only after what felt like half an hour did I weakly open my eyes. My mother stood guard over me with red-rimmed eyes, clutching my arm as she asked, "Wendy, what do you mean by what you said? Was your brother really taken away by someone?" I pretended to shrink back in fear, saying with a crying tone, "Mom, please save my brother. He was taken away, and I couldn't catch up to that car no matter how hard I tried. They said they only wanted boys." I tried to help my brother, but they hit me. It hurt so much, Mom. I showed her the bruises on my body, but Mom had no mind to care about me, her gaze fixed on the door outside. Coincidentally, Dad returned with several relatives, holding farming tools in their hands. "Did you find him? Did you find Jason?" Dad looked dejected, while the relatives gritted their teeth with anger. We were too late. When we reached the village entrance, there were no vehicles or strangers in sight. We searched the village but still found nothing. My mother's body swayed precariously before she collapsed to the ground, crying her heart out. The bullet comments that were already insulting me became even more vicious. "The female lead is truly a born villain. How could she bear to see her mother cry like this?" As expected, women are like spilled water that can't be recovered. When will the truth be revealed? I can't wait to see the female lead beaten to death. The fate she suffered in her previous life was what she deserved. She doesn't deserve to be pampered. The thought of the future CEO Jason's suffering is unbearable. It breaks my heart. The comment section's breakdown almost made me burst out laughing. I quickly looked away and saw a middle-aged woman with a guilty expression, with a little girl in a princess dress standing behind her father. It was my aunt who had rushed over after hearing the news, and her daughter, Jenny, that fake rich girl who took my identity in my past life. "Sister-in-law, don't be too sad. Jason will definitely be safe and sound. He'll come back safely," the middle-aged woman spoke as she went to help my mom, but was pushed away by my mom with one shove. "Get away. Where were you when Wendy and Jason were being harassed by human traffickers? Your father-in-law and I took pity on you and your orphan child, giving you $100 just to watch Jason and Wendy every day. And what happened? You lost my child. Don't you bully my mom." With a scream, my mom's hand, which was about to hit someone, was bitten by the little girl. The scene made the bullet comments go crazy, scrolling across my screen. Chaos, total chaos. Oh no, Jason was trafficked and suffered, and now my sweet little cake is arguing with Jason's mother. This is going to be your future mother-in-law. It's hard to imagine that these two, who are now in such a mess, were the inseparable mother and daughter in my past life that no one could come between. I'm filled with joy. In my past life, my mother adopted Jiang Yan as her foster daughter to replace me at my brother's suggestion, and her mother rose to prominence along with her. After I was found, she frequently targeted me, taking advantage of her status as my aunt, secretly provoking me with words to make me recall the days I was trafficked and lose my composure, preparing an ill-fitting and poor-quality dress for me, the pink color making my skin look even darker, which was the reason I was bullied at school, and providing false testimony for Jenny, claiming I put things she was allergic to in her lunchbox. Because of these incidents, my parents' attitude toward me took a sharp turn, shifting from guilt to extreme disgust. Finally, amid my mother's heart-wrenching uproar, my father agreed to stop dealing with Jenny's family, even stripping off the princess dress Jenny was wearing, the one that belonged to me but had been given away by Jason. Initially, my parents were full of hope and searching for my older brother, even giving up their business that had just started to take off day after day, a bad premonition. gradually grew in their hearts. The loss of money and the pressure of life made them gradually lose confidence. During one conversation, I mentioned casually, "If my brother comes back and sees our family has become poor, will he despise us for being a burden?" In the news, I've seen those abducted children who refuse to return to their own families just because their adoptive parents are wealthy. My parents glanced at each other and remained silent for a long time after that conversation. My parents continued to search for my brother, but no longer with single-minded devotion, instead spending more time on their business. Our quality of life kept improving, and we moved from the village to the county town. So Jason's life in his previous life was actually this good. The bullet comments were even more triggered. How is this fair? Jason suffers in the mountains while the female lead enjoys herself. Just because she's shameless and doesn't take the disaster for her brother. This family is so heartless, still thinking about making money when their son is missing. A calculating woman like her doesn't deserve to be the group's favorite. Just wait and see how Jason will deal with her when he returns. Sell her off to the mountains again. But didn't Jason have a better life in his previous life? I don't think the female lead did anything wrong. A timid comment spoke up in my defense, only to be quickly drowned out. As Jason disappeared, the bullet comments before my eyes gradually quieted down, and because of Jason's lesson, my parents kept a close and caring eye on me. However, they still wanted to have a son who could inherit their family business. My gaze turned cold. Since they wanted a son so badly, I would give them a perfect son. Following the timeline of my previous life, I calculated the days and had the driver take me to an alley in an urban village. I waded through the sewage, heading deep into the alley. The environment here was filthy and dim, smelling like spoiled food, but my thoughts were not on it at all. In my previous life, I was trafficked to a mountain village, endured endless suffering, and being beaten black and blue was a common occurrence. Even with my strong will, thoughts of suicide still surface from time to time. If I had been alone, I would never have made it home. That person was also trafficked, but he never gave up. He devised an escape plan with me, saved his food for me, and when our escape plan was discovered, he resolutely drew away the villagers who were chasing us. He told me he was an orphan before being trafficked. He said he cherished food and cherished his life, yet, in the end, he paid the price of his life for me. Coming back to my senses, I looked deep into the alley with determination in my eyes. This time, it's my turn to protect you, my turn to give for you. I'm going to take him home and take good care of him. Suddenly, from behind the discarded cardboard box at the front of the alley, someone was pushed out. He was very thin, like a bean sprout, clutching half a steamed bun in his hand, refusing to let go no matter how the other children hit him. I widened my eyes, and despite the other person being dirty and small in stature, I recognized him, my benefactor from my past life, Sam. I ordered the bodyguards beside me to drive away those children and walked up to Sam. He didn't look at me, just focused on stuffing the steamed bun into his mouth until his cheeks were bulging. "Will you come with me?" I asked. "There's a clean bed, and you'll have plenty to eat every day." Sam stopped, chewing the food in his mouth forcefully. "Why?" "Because I need a big brother." My voice softened unconsciously. "And also because I need you. Will you?" I reached out my hand, and after a brief hesitation, Sam wiped his hand on his clothes and gently placed it in my palm. He said solemnly, "I do." I couldn't help but smile as I tightened my grip on his hand. I brought Sam home, as expected. My parents' reaction was intense. Mom looked at the filthy Sam, her brow tightly furrowed. "Wendy, where did you pick up this child? Take him back right now. He looks like my brother. He was almost bullied to death. Just like when my brother was taken by bad people." "Mom, I'm scared. Don't let him disappear like my brother too. Please, I'm begging you." I cried heartbreakingly, my body shaking uncontrollably. This performance was 70% real and 30% fake. The nightmares from my past life had never left me. When the missing Jason was mentioned, Mom's eyes immediately turned red, and Dad's tense expression softened somewhat. They looked at Sam, who was trembling but trying to keep his back straight, then at me, who was crying my eyes out, and finally sighed. All right, let them stay for now." Dad relented, while Mom turned her head, tacitly agreeing. Sam was very commendable. He cherished this hard-won stability, acting so maturely that it was heart-wrenching. He studied with all his might and brought back a report card placing him first in his grade on his first exam. My grades were also consistently at the top, and our names always appeared next to each other at the very front of the honor roll. Mom and Dad changed Sam's name to Sam James every time they took us to gatherings. Sam James, and I behaved appropriately and spoke clearly, always earning a chorus of admiring praise. "Old Jiang, you're truly blessed. Both your children are so outstanding." A smile gradually appeared on Dad's face, and Mom's gaze toward Sam James became increasingly gentle. The atmosphere at home was no longer lifeless. Although the pain of losing Jason remained, hope and pride began to grow anew. They started to genuinely cultivate Sam, as if he had always been a member of our family. Occasionally, one or two bullet comments would float by, sourly saying things like a cuckoo occupying a magpie's nest or fake sun, but they were powerless to change anything. This family was striving to move on to a new track. But I never forgot Jenny, the pain she inflicted upon me in my previous life. I remembered every bit of it clearly. I learned about her later situation. Her mother had remarried, and her new husband was unwilling to take on an extra burden. It turned out that the mother and daughter, who had been so close in my previous life, were nothing more than that in this life. I used some of my pocket money to anonymously sponsor Jenny's tuition, deliberately sending her to that private middle school which claimed to be a model of quality education but was actually chaotic and rife with competition. The place looked glamorous on the surface, gathering many nouveau riche children and delinquent students. I remember it all too clearly. In my previous life, this was exactly how Jenny helped me. She told our parents, "Sister just came back, she needs a better environment to adapt." Then she pushed me into that hell. The tuition was expensive and the appearance was magnificent, enough to convince our parents that I was sent there to enjoy life. No matter how isolated or bullied I was at school, my cries for help were dismissed as ungrateful and melodramatic. Now, it's her turn. I wasn't specifically targeting Jenny. After all, that school itself was a massive filtering machine and a breeding ground for bullying. Ugliness, poverty, or simply not fitting in can all become original sins. Some video clips sent to my old phone revealed the current situation of Jiang Yan, or Jenny. Jenny was pushed into a damp corner of the bathroom. They snatched her meal card, and threw a rag that had been used to wipe the sink onto her faded backpack. She kept her head down, shoulders hunched, completely lacking the arrogant and triumphant demeanor she had shown in front of me in my previous life. See, I didn't need to act personally. That environment would naturally devour her, just as it devoured me in my previous life. Once, I was leaning against the window watching a video where Jenny's textbook was torn to shreds, with paper scraps falling over her head like snowflakes. Extremely light footsteps came from behind me. I instinctively turned off the screen and turned around to see Sam James. Sam James just calmly placed the fruit beside my hand, his voice as gentle as ever. "Wendy, come have some fruit. I've tasted it for you. The grapes are very sweet this time." I'm sure Sam James saw it. He saw my dark side, yet chose to stand by me, asking nothing, simply favoring me. My eyes grew hot, and I turned my head to hide my emotions. "What's wrong? Did sand get in your eyes? Let brother blow it out for you." I shook my head and said, "I'm just really happy." I was really happy. I thought the days would pass as I imagined, calmly yet with undercurrents, until I had settled all the debts from my past life one by one. Until that day after school, Jenny suddenly appeared at the entrance of my residential community. She was still wearing the uniform from that private school, but the originally ill-fitting size seemed to have been carefully altered, becoming well-fitted and snug. Her once always greasy and tangled hair had become smooth and shiny, casually draped over her shoulders. Even her once timid and shrinking expression had disappeared, replaced by a kind of arrogance and harshness that came from being pampered, which I found extremely familiar. Her change was too great, so great it was eerie. She stared at me intently, her eyes like poison needle tips, yet the corners of her mouth curled into a strange smile. "Wendy, I've been having a very interesting dream lately." I frowned with a bad premonition, as Sam James imperceptibly took half a step forward, partially shielding me behind him. "I dreamed you fell from a great height, splat, like a rotten watermelon, smashed to pieces. In the dream, everyone said you deserved it, that you should have died long ago." The frozen hatred in my heart was easily ignited by Jenny at this moment, crackling as it burned, but instead, I smiled on the surface. "Dreams are the opposite of reality, haven't you heard that?" I met Jenny's gaze, my voice colder than hers. "It seems that school of yours is really something, only teaching you to daydream and to have a filthy mouth." Her expression suddenly changed, that carefully crafted delicate mask instantly cracking to reveal the twisted resentment beneath. I was escorted by Sam James, walking straight past her, leaving only Jenny shouting behind me, "The one who should have been trafficked is you, you bitch. I'm the little princess doted on by my brother and mother. Just you wait, when my brother comes back, I'll kill you again." Jenny's vicious curses still lingered in my ears, but I only felt a cold excitement crawling up my spine. She remembered. She had also returned with memories from her previous life. In that case, my dear brother should be back by now. After all, it's time to settle some scores properly. A few days later, on a peaceful afternoon, the piercing sound of police sirens suddenly tore through the tranquility of the villa district where James's home was located. Receiving the call from the police, my parents waiting at the villa entrance had expressions of disbelief, ecstasy, and excitement intertwined on their faces. I followed my parents and waited, watching coldly from the sidelines. A teenager got out of the police car. He was much shorter and frielier than others his age, with a hunched back. What was most striking Was his face, covered in red, swollen pustules and some unhealed scars, making it almost impossible to see his original appearance. Only in those eyes burned a familiar yet murkier resentment and sinister gloom. Could that really be Jason, the brother from my memories, who had a vicious mind but a glamorous appearance? Even the reappearing bullet comments fell into a standstill. Is that my CEO brother? You've got to be kidding me. Ugh, what is that on his face? I feel sick. Ugh ugh ugh. As pitiful as it is, I can barely look at this, Mom gasped. Instinctively covering her mouth, she took half a step forward but then stopped abruptly, her eyes filled with immense shock and a hint of undeniable physical discomfort and disgust. Dad's expression was also extremely unpleasant, his brows tightly furrowed. Jason, Mom's voice trembled with disbelief. Hearing this call, Jason suddenly looked up, his cloudy gaze sweeping over us like a searchlight before finally locking onto my face. The venom within him instantly surged, almost becoming tangible. It's her, it was Wendy who did this to me. If it weren't for her, she would have been the one who was kidnapped. How could I have ended up like this? It's all that bitch's fault. Jason roared and lunged at me suddenly, grabbing straight for my neck, but just as those hands were about to touch me, a figure moved faster and blocked my path. Sam James stood silently, without unnecessary movements, just standing there steadily like a silent wall, blocking all of Jason's frantic attacks. Jason, what are you doing? Coming to his senses, my father, both shocked and angry, stepped forward and forcibly pulled apart the seemingly insane Jason. Mother also came to her senses, looking at the scene before her, at her son on the ground with his terrifying appearance and frantic roars, then at me and Sam James who were well protected and dressed neatly and cleanly. Her expression was extremely complicated, finally turning into a tearful rebuke. Jason, what nonsense are you talking about? How could you lay hands on your sister, and say such things to your brother and sister? Brother and sister? What bullshit, brother and sister? I should be the only one in this family. These two bastards should get out of here. They should all taste my suffering. Jason was held tightly by Dad, still struggling and roaring like a trapped beast, with endless foul language, those ulcerated, pus-oozing eyes fixed on me. Mother's face turned pale. She subconsciously took half a step back, the trace of concern in her eyes now covered by fear and disgust. I slowly emerged from behind Sam James's solid shelter, my face appropriately filled with worry and fear, my voice trembling slightly with a choked sob. Dad, Mom, my brother, he seems to be not quite right here. I gently pointed to my temple, tears rolling down at just the right moment. Has he been too stimulated outside and gotten sick? I hesitated to continue, my timid gaze sweeping over the neighbors who had been attracted by the commotion. Looking like this, if he runs out and hurts someone, or if others see him, and word gets to the company uncles and aunts, will they think our family's reputation? My words struck precisely at what my parents cared about most: dignity, reputation, and that lingering, unacknowledged parental love. Dad's expression completely darkened. He looked at the horrifyingly disheveled and frenzied son before him, then considered the potential rumors and the possible impact on his business, and the last trace of hesitation in his eyes vanished. Mom's lips trembled as she looked at me, then at Jason, finally turning away, her voice as faint as a mosquito's buzz. Wendy's right, Jason looking like this, he really needs to see a doctor. What doctor? I'm not sick, Jason roared, trying to lunge forward but was held down by Sam James and Dad together. I lowered my eyelashes, hiding the coldness in my eyes, but my voice became increasingly sincere. Mom and Dad, don't be too sad and hurt your health. Leave contacting the hospital to me and Sam James. We know a private hospital with a good environment and professional staff. They will definitely take good care of brother. You should take a moment to calm down first. Dad waved his hand tiredly and disgustedly, almost immediately agreeing. Go take care of it. Get him out of here quickly. The efficiency was astonishingly high. Jason didn't even make it through the front door of James' villa before being forcibly shoved into another car by arriving personnel in white coats. Amidst his even more frantic curses and struggles, the moment the car door closed, his twisted, resentful face pressed against the window, staring fixedly at me. I stood before the magnificent villa gates, beside my glamorous family, and from afar, I gave him a faint yet bone-chilling smile. Brother, welcome back. Your good days are yet to come. That private psychiatric hospital, I know it all too well. In my past life, Jason had countless times threatened me with it, letting me know that as long as the price was right, they would satisfy any request, finding ways to make me behave. I dialed the director's number. Hello, Dean, I'm Wendy. As you've seen, my brother's condition, his mental state is very unstable, especially his resentment toward our parents, which deeply pains us all. I paused, my tone becoming firm. Please help correct his behavior. We only hope he can become a grateful son who no longer Resents his parents. Whatever methods you use, cost is not an issue. A respectful and understanding voice came from the other end of the phone. Don't worry, Miss Jung, we specialize in behavior correction and emotional counseling. We will certainly make the Yin master a completely new person. I hung up the phone, and images of Jason being corrected flashed before my eyes. Forced injections, confinement, electric shocks. Everything he had once planned to use on me was now being returned to him in full. After all this, I thought of another person. I had someone accidentally leak the hospital and ward information where Jason was staying to Jenny. Wasn't she always calling him brother and saying she'd wait for him to come back and kill me? I'll grant her wish. Let me see what waves this pair of good siblings from our past lives can still make in a mental institution in this life. Sure enough, 3 months later, Jenny appeared at our doorstep, supporting Jason. The moment Jenny saw my parents open the door, her eyes instantly lit up, and the words almost slipped out, Mom and Dad. Suddenly, she remembered something and stopped herself abruptly, barely managing to change her words, saying with a tearful voice, Mr. James, Mrs. James, please do something about Wendy. She's simply inhuman. She locked my brother in that kind of place to torture him. She pointed at Jason beside her, who was hanging his head and looking timid. Just look at what my brother has been reduced to. Wendy is so vicious. Jason looked up at the right moment, revealing his pustule-covered face, and hoarsely echoed, Dad, Mom, my sister, she hates me, she wants me dead. Hearing this, I calmly walked over to my parents, my face wearing just the right amount of helplessness and grievance. Mom frowned at the two uninvited guests, while Dad's expression had already darkened. Jenny, watch your tone and choice of words. Dad said coldly, Jason needs treatment, and Wendy is only doing what's best for him. The question is, how did you manage to take Jason out of the hospital? What are you trying to do? Jenny couldn't understand why her parents, who had been so trusting of her in her previous life, had become like this in this one. Do you have any idea how she treated brother in there? I interrupted her softly, took out my phone, and pulled up several surveillance clips. In the footage, medical staff patiently accompanied Jason in rehabilitation games and provided psychological counseling. The environment was clean and quiet, even warm and cozy. You're mistaken, brother's condition is unstable, and sometimes he experiences persecutory delusions. The doctor said he often imagines that someone is abusing him. I had prepared these superficial gestures long in advance, and I would occasionally show them to my parents with a worried expression, reinforcing their perception that Jason was crazy and receiving good treatment. In contrast, my parents' impatience and disgust toward Jenny reached its peak. Enough, Mom scolded sharply. Jenny, I see you're just as twisted as your mother, instigating Jason to escape, and now trying to slander Wendy. You need to leave right now. Jason, go back to the hospital immediately for treatment. Watching the incredulous and devastated expressions on Jason and Jenny's faces after being scolded, I sneered inwardly while appearing increasingly gentle on the surface, softly persuading Mom. Mom, please don't get angry. It's bad for your health. Brother does look much better than when he first came back. Maybe the treatment is really working. Since he's out, let's let him stay with Jenny for now. After all, we're family. My performance of returning malice with kindness successfully intensified the guilt and pity in my parents' eyes, while also making them more impatient with their own troublemaking. Disheveled son, Dad frowned, and finally waved his hand. Fine, since Wendy is pleading, let him stay for now. But Jason, you remember this, if you dare go crazy again, or listen to outsiders instigating you against Wendy, you'll get right back to the hospital, and you need to thank your sister for her generosity. Jason lowered his head, trembling all over, his face hidden in the shadows twisted for a moment, before finally squeezing out a few words through his teeth. Thank you, sister, don't mention it, brother, we're family. I'd like to see what tricks these vipers and jackals can pull when kept together by my side. In the evening, I stood on the terrace as the night breeze blew. Sam James silently walked over and draped a jacket over my shoulders. Brother, I said without turning around, my voice soft, do you think I'm too vicious? Sam James fell silent for a moment, then stood beside me, his gaze calm and resolute, without the slightest wavering. Everything you do, you have your reasons. His voice was low, yet carried absolute trust. I only need to know that you are the person I need to protect. Whatever you do, I stand by your side. He didn't press for answers, didn't question, but with the simplest words, expressed the most steadfast support. My icy heart seemed to have a warm stone cast into it, creating subtle ripples that even I found unfamiliar. I leaned gently against him, resting my forehead on his solid shoulder, drawing a moment of warmth and peace. Just a moment, it'll be ready soon. At dinner the next day, the atmosphere was strangely quiet. Suddenly, Jason staggered toward me with a glass of Milk, little sister, I was wrong yesterday. This glass of milk is my apology to you. Our parents watched this scene, seemingly relieved by the deep affection between us siblings. Jenny sat not far away, her head lowered, but a vicious smile tugged at the corner of her mouth that she couldn't suppress. I sneered inwardly, but on the surface, I accepted it as if overwhelmed by favor. Thank you, brother. I pretended to take a sip, but actually used the angle to pour most of the milk onto a prepared absorbent handkerchief. Jason and Jenny exchanged a look of successful conspiracy. Late at night, I was awakened by an extremely faint sound and an inexplicable feeling of heat. The room door was pushed open silently, as several dark figures tiptoed inside, bringing with them a nauseating smell of alcohol and obscene laughter. Little beauty, don't be afraid, we're here to take good care of you. I immediately understood what had been added to that glass of milk. I have to admit, they certainly knew how to pick their moment. No one was home today, as my parents wouldn't be back until very late. The bullet comments excitedly flooded the screen. Jenny did well. This way everything will get back on track. When Jason's parents see the true face of the female lead, our Jason will become the family heir and the pride of his parents. My eyes turned cold. If my guess was correct, Jenny was probably waiting outside the villa door right now, waiting to bring her late returning parents back, to witness my depraved scene firsthand. Just as those filthy hands were about to touch me, I coldly recited in my mind, "System, use the second exchange opportunity, exchange my current position with Jason's." Command confirmed. In an instant, the world spun around me. I found myself standing at my bedroom door, while the few hooligans who had been in my room, along with their intended victim, had transformed into Jason, wearing pajamas and excitedly eavesdropping. Jason's scream was instantly muffled. Those hooligans seemed to be under the influence of drugs, completely unaware that their target had changed, and simply pounced on him with animalistic instinct, tearing at Jason's clothes. "Let me go, you've got it wrong. It's me, it's me." Jason's struggles and whimpers were drowned out by lewd laughter. The bullet comments started flooding with question marks again. Wait, is this right? This isn't the domineering CEO I wanted. I've been wanting to say this. The fake daughter and real young master are truly vicious and despicable. The female lead did beautifully. I'm on the female lead side this time. A person can be foolish or wicked, but not both foolish and wicked. Just then, I heard footsteps in conversation coming from the stairs. "Mr. James, Mrs. James, I'm really worried about Wendy. The sounds from her room are so strange. It's like there's—" Her words came to an abrupt halt. As I was rubbing my sleepy eyes, I walked out of Jason's room, still wearing my pajamas, looking as if I had been woken up. "Dad, Mom, you're back. Sister Jenny, you're here too. What's wrong? What was that strange sound?" The color instantly drained from Jenny's face, her eyes widened in shock, and her trembling finger pointed at me. How did you get out from there? You should have been in your own room." "Oh, you're talking about that. My brother said he wanted to experience the view from my room and see how soft it was, so I switched with him for one night. He said he had suffered before and wanted to try a comfortable bed." I spoke with an innocent tone, showing just the right amount of sympathy, then listened attentively. "But there really are sounds coming from my room. Could my brother be having a nightmare? Why don't we open the door and check on him?" "No, impossible. Don't open the door," Jenny screamed, her face turning deathly pale. She lunged toward my door, trying to block it with her body. "We can't open it. He must be sleepwalking." "Yes, sleepwalking. We can't disturb him." She was incoherent, extremely panicked. She had already guessed what was happening inside, and she absolutely couldn't let her parents see, but her reaction was too intense and abnormal, which instead aroused her parents' suspicion. Dad frowned deeply. "Jenny, get out of the way. No, don't open it, please." Just then, Jason's screams and others' indistinct insults were clearly heard from the room. Mother's expression changed instantly. Father no longer hesitated, roughly pulling away the seemingly crazed Jenny and violently kicking open the door. Bang! The scene inside the room, like the filthiest and ugliest painting, instantly crashed into everyone's view. Several strange men reeking of alcohol, and Jason, pinned beneath them, his clothes torn, his face streaked with tears and despair. The air seemed to freeze. Time stood still for a second. Mom let out a hysterical scream, suddenly covering her eyes, her body swaying unsteadily. Father's face turned from iron gray to deathly pale, then quickly flushed to the purple red of fury. With veins bulging on his forehead, he was trembling with anger, barely able to speak. You beasts. Those hooligans were stunned by this sudden turn of events, sobering up considerably as they scrambled to get away on their hands and knees. Jenny collapsed at the doorway, her face ashen, muttering, "It's over, everything's over." I stood behind my parents, coldly watching this ugly drama that they had scripted, directed, and performed themselves, ultimately suffering the consequences of their own actions. After a deathly silence of shock, Jenny seemed to grasp at the last straw, suddenly pointing at me, her voice so sharp it almost pierced the eardrums. It's her, it must be Wendy, she planned this, she hates my brother, she gave these people money to do this to my brother. Yes, that's it. Her words were full of holes, filled with the madness of desperation. I looked at her, my face showing not a trace of panic, only cold pity and mockery. Sister Jenny, you seem to know very well what's going to happen here. I turned to my parents, who were pale and trembling, my tone becoming serious. Dad, Mom, this is terrifying. This is no longer a simple family dispute. This is a serious crime. We must call the police. Let the police investigate who opened my room door to let these hooligans in, and who is behind this. We must get justice for my brother. I spoke with righteous indignation, every word striking Jenny's fragile nerves. Call the police. Once the police are involved, her instigation of hooligans and drugging the milk won't withstand investigation. She will definitely go to jail. No, we can't call the police. Jenny was frightened out of her wits, blurting out, her voice distorted by extreme fear. She turned to her parents instead, pleading incoherently, Mr. James, Mrs. James, we can't call the police. Family shame shouldn't be made public. Brother is already like this. We can't let outsiders know. Please, for the James family's reputation, for the James family's reputation. Father finally found his voice amidst his extreme rage, that voice as cold as ice, carrying endless exhaustion and disappointment. He looked at his son on the ground, barely human and completely ruined, then at the malicious and deceitful niece before him, and finally thought of me and Sam James, who was away on business. The stark contrast made his last hesitation disappear. In our James family, we have no such shameless and malicious son, nor do we have relatives like you who stir up trouble and have a venomous heart. Get out. Dad waved his hand sharply, as if brushing away something extremely filthy. Get out of here, all of you. Fend for yourselves. Don't let me see you again. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. Mom stood by, crying silently. She turned her head away, not looking at them for another moment. Several servants and bodyguards who had rushed over upon hearing the commotion, at Dad's signal, advanced expressionlessly, like clearing out trash. They roughly dragged out Jenny, who was still wailing and begging, and Jason, who looked like a walking corpse. The heavy villa door slammed shut behind them, completely cutting off the two worlds. Silence returned to the corridor, leaving only my mother's low sobs. I stood in place, staring at the tightly closed door, my heart filled with icy calm. It was over. The grievances of my past life had finally been mostly resolved. A few days after the turmoil subsided, Sam James returned from his business trip. He rushed into my room almost the moment he arrived, not even having time to put down his luggage. The usually calm him wore a rare expression of anxiety and fear on his face. He grabbed my shoulders, examining me up and down, his voice tense. I heard about it. How could you put yourself in danger? What if that exchange, what if something went wrong? His grip was somewhat tight, his eyes filled with undisguised worry and fear. Looking at his dusty appearance and the dark circles under his eyes, that last frozen corner in my heart quietly melted away. I gently patted the back of his hand, offering a reassuring smile. Brother, I'm fine. See, aren't I perfectly all right? Everything went according to plan. There will be no next time, planned or otherwise. Sam James' tone was unprecedentedly severe, carrying an unquestionable firmness. Wendy, whatever you want to do from now on, tell me, and let me handle it. You don't need to dirty your hands, nor do you need to put yourself in danger. All the dark things will be handled by me. His gaze was deep and focused, filled with an almost obsessive protective desire. I looked at him and finally nodded lightly. Okay. Jason and Jenny, who had been kicked out of the James house, were cornered by the thugs they had hired before they could even recover their senses. Those thugs were nothing but local hooligans, and since Jenny had no money to pay the final installment and had almost sent them to jail, they naturally vented all their resentment on the two of them. They found the dilapidated hotel where Jason and Jenny were temporarily staying, coming frequently to harass, extort, and beat them. Jason, already physically and mentally traumatized, became increasingly gloomy and unhinged, with no strength to resist. Jenny, on the other hand, spent her days in terror and regret. Initially, the two could barely rely on each other while cursing one another, but soon they grew tired of each other's sight, each believing the other was holding them back. Watching Jason, who had become a complete burden and laughingstock while constantly bringing trouble, Jenny secretly packed the last of her money one late night, intending to abandon Jason and run away alone. But Jason discovered Jenny's plan and confronted her, asking why she would do this to him. A flash of guilt crossed Jenny's face. Then she gave up completely. What else? Die with a Useless person like you, without you holding me back, I would have been living a good life long ago. Jason suddenly grabbed her wrist, his eyes suddenly bursting with intense regret and madness. I'm the one who was held back by you. I had a sister, I had a home. If it weren't for you, this disaster, how could I have treated Wendy that way? How could I have ended up like this? Without you, my life wouldn't be a complete mess. Ugh. Jenny spat at him, retorting shrilly, "You're the idiot. You're the one who didn't want her first. Why pretend to regret it now? You worthless piece of trash, let go of me." In the chaotic pushing and tearing, no one knew who struck first. Jenny pushed hard, screaming as she fell backward, the back of her head hitting heavily against the cold, sharp fire hydrant at the alley entrance. The sound stopped abruptly when the news of Jenny's death and Jason's imprisonment vaguely reached James' home. His parents were silent for only a moment, then, as if trying to completely rid themselves of something filthy, never mentioned it again. After this series of blows, my parents seemed to have aged considerably, and their control over the company was no longer what it used to be. As for me, with Sam James's unconditional support, I gradually took over the affairs of the family conglomerate. With my decisive methods and the advantage of my past life's memories, I quickly purged the company of its long-standing problems, leading the group to new heights and earning the recognition of the board of directors. My attitude toward my parents is complicated, so I provided them with a comfortable retirement life, greatly satisfying their material needs, yet I stripped them of all their power and connections to outsiders. This might seem enviable, but for my parents who had been in power for half their lives, they simply couldn't bear the taste of losing their say. One evening after everything had settled, Sam James and I stood side by side before the floor-to-ceiling windows on the top floor of the company, overlooking the brilliant lights of the city. "It's all over," I whispered. Sam James turned to look at me, his gaze gentle yet firm. "Yes, it's all over. The haze of the past life has completely dissipated. The city beneath our feet flows with brilliance, heralding a brand new future that truly belongs to us and is controlled by us." The last blessing floated across the bullet comments. "Congratulations on the conclusion. Evil gets its just desserts. How satisfying. The heroine and her loyal brother must be happy forever." After hearing the second story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. I was the real daughter who was intentionally abandoned by my brother. The reason was simple. He wanted to give a poor student a home, so I was trafficked to a remote countryside, while the poor student became the fake daughter and was brought back home. 6 years later, when I finally managed to escape and return home, there was no longer a place for me in the family. Fearing that the past incident would be exposed, my brother, persuaded by the fake heiress, ran me over with his car and killed me. Before I died, he whispered disgustedly in my ear, "Cindy just wanted a home. Why did you have to come back and force her away?" When I opened my eyes again, I returned to the day my brother was attracted to the impoverished student. At the dinner table, I pretended to be innocent and confused. "Brother, why were you taking off your clothes and fighting with that underprivileged girl in the gymnasium during the day?" My brother took a liking to a new underprivileged student who transferred to our school. "She has a delicate and pure appearance, with a hot and sexy figure." My brother felt sorry for her and wanted to give her a home, so I deserved to lose my home, to be trafficked to a remote countryside, enduring hunger, curses, and humiliation. After enduring humiliation and bearing heavy burdens for 6 years, I finally escaped and returned home with great difficulty, only to find there was no longer a place for me, and then I was run over and killed. Just before dying, he still couldn't resist destroying me emotionally. "Cindy just wanted a home. Why did you have to come back and force her away? Clearly that was my home, and I was the one who was forced to leave. How ridiculous. Their love requires me as a sacrifice." At the breakfast table, I struck first. "Brother, why were you taking off your clothes and fighting with that underprivileged student girl in the gym during the day?" At the table, my parents were shocked, and my brother coughed until his face turned red. He was extremely guilty and shot me a fierce glare, his tone somewhat vicious. "Eat properly and don't spout nonsense." In my past life, whenever he showed this expression, I would obediently shut my mouth, because he was my older brother. I had to respect and love him, and couldn't make him unhappy. But even though we share the same blood and are supposed to be the closest people in the world, why was he so cruel? Since he didn't behave like a human, then I don't need to be merciful to an animal. My long eyelashes fluttered, looking completely harmless. "Brother, I'm not talking nonsense at all. I not only saw it with my own eyes, but I also heard you two making those noises. Were you hitting each other too hard? Brother, how can you, a man, bully a girl? That's really going too far." Suddenly, my Brother became furious, put down his bowl, and reached out to hit me. Dad acted faster, slamming his hand on the table as he suppressed his anger and said, "Jack, you'd better give me a good explanation of what exactly happened here." My brother was startled and immediately protested his innocence. "This is all a misunderstanding. I didn't even go to the gym yesterday. My sister must have mistaken me for someone else and is falsely accusing me." Mom chimed in from the side. "Kathy, are you sure you didn't make a mistake and wrongfully accuse your brother? How could he possibly do such a thing?" Brother looked at me with hostility. "Sister, don't think you can speak irresponsibly just because you're younger." I pouted, said angrily, "Who's being irresponsible? There are surveillance cameras in the gymnasium. We can investigate if you don't believe me." Dad immediately agreed. "Your mother and I will go to school with you to see who's really lying." Brother gave me a cold glance, full of threat. I looked up, meeting his gaze with a slight smile. Dad was driving, Mom sat in the passenger seat, while my brother and I sat in the back. My brother had been texting the entire way, only relaxing his furrowed brows when we reached the school gate, and even shot me a provocative look. I said with a sweet smile, "Brother is really so busy, texting from the moment you got in the car until now." Dad's gaze turned over, and my brother quickly put his phone in his pocket. He explained, "Yeah, I was discussing the basketball game in a few days with some classmates." After saying that, he didn't dare to provoke me anymore, quickened his pace to walk to Mom's side, and affectionately put his arm around Mom's arm. I crossed my arms and walked slowly behind, looking at the long-lost campus but feeling somewhat sour in my heart. In my past life, I dreamed of school countless times, wetting my pillow with tears. Back then, Dad said that whoever was more outstanding between my brother and me would inherit the family business. But he said that when my brother was skipping classes, fighting, and learning nothing, words spoken out of his frustration with my brother's lack of ambition, I never took it seriously anyway. My parents, who favored sons over daughters, never even spared me their cheap affection, not to mention the career they had worked for their entire lives. That's why I studied desperately hard, wanting to get into a good university and build my own career through my own abilities, but all of this was destroyed by my brother's own hands. He used the excuse of me ranking first in my grade to take me to an amusement park, put sleeping pills in my milk tea, and let me be abducted by human traffickers. The consequences of a 16-year-old girl in her prime being abducted to a mountainous region are imaginable. Just a second ago I was the happiest person in the world, and the next I was dragged into a hell of unspeakable horror. So this time, I'll make them all pay. The gymnasium was nearly empty in the early morning, with the surveillance camera in the nearby security room. When I was less than 10 meters away, a clear female voice suddenly sounded from beside me, "Be careful." As soon as the words fell, I saw a ponytailed, energetic girl leap up to block the volleyball that was about to crash down. The moment I saw her, my hands clenched into tight fists, letting my nails dig into my flesh. The pain slowly brought my already stiff body back to reality. Cindy, the impoverished student my brother doted on, the one who instigated my brother to traffic me, the mastermind who stole 6 years of my life and caused my death. Back then, I watched from a distance as my parents held an intimate party in the garden with her, affectionately introducing her to everyone with their arms around her. "This is our Cindy, so well-behaved and sensible. Though not our biological daughter, she's even dearer to us than one. She lived in the room that should have been mine, used everything that was mine, and completely replaced me." Even so, she wasn't satisfied. She brainwashed my brother into killing me with his car, so that everything in our family could belong to him. "Hi, Jack. Good morning. Are you here with your uncle and aunt to watch your basketball practice?" Cindy, after being rescued like a damsel in distress, walked up confidently to greet them with a bright smile. She wore a light-colored tight sportswear that perfectly showcased her excellent figure. This kind of entrance was truly stunning. Even their well-traveled parents showed satisfied smiles. My brother began to put on an act. "Cindy, thank you so much for what you just did. That volleyball could have been dangerous if it hit us." Cindy brushed aside her stray hair and said with a pleasant smile, "I was just jogging by and it was no trouble. The basketball court is over there. Why did you bring your uncle, aunt, and sister here?" My brother shot me a cold glance and snorted in disgust. "Stop talking." My sister suddenly went crazy for some reason and actually said she saw us taking off our clothes and fighting on the basketball court yesterday afternoon. In an instant, Cindy's fair cheeks turned crimson, and she said with some anger, "Kathy, don't just spread rumors because you're young. That's really too much. Her acting has always been excellent, and Oscar is not her limit." Her brother chimed in from the side, "Isn't that the truth? My sister loves to slander me, and this isn't the first time." Then, hugging my mom's arm, I said, "Mom and Dad, this is Cindy, the president of our school's volleyball club. She's excellent at volleyball and has even won awards in provincial competitions. Although she's a student from a disadvantaged background and didn't have great educational resources before, she made it to the top 5 in our class in just half a year. Our teachers even tell us to learn from her. Praising her perseverance and good character, I have to admit, this image packaging was really well done. My parents' eyes showed even more approval as they looked at her. I smiled slightly. Well, the school never had a volleyball club before. It's because Cindy's grades weren't high enough, so the school mysteriously added a volleyball club just to admit her. Any high school student can participate in the provincial competition. 30 people participated in total, and she placed 17th. As for being in the top 5 of the class, it's because that exam's questions were leaked. Suddenly, the smile on Cindy's face turned pale and stiff. My brother was so angry that the veins on his forehead bulged, grinding his teeth. Kathy, if you keep talking nonsense, I'll pull your teeth out, I shrugged, looking innocent. What's wrong? Am I not allowed to tell the truth now? If you don't believe me, should I ask any random classmate? As soon as I finished speaking, I waved down some girls who were skipping along while practicing their English reading aloud. Excuse me, could you girls come over here and help me with something? Naive high school students are always eager to help, and they rushed over in a flash. I asked right away, do you know Cindy from senior class 1? What do you think of her? They immediately started chattering away, speaking so quickly that no one else could get a word in. I don't know her, but I've seen her bullying younger students in the restroom. She doesn't have a very good temper. Yeah, she's supposedly a student from a poor family, but all her clothes are quite expensive. I guess she got in by taking the spot meant for financially disadvantaged students because of her poor grades. It's actually nice that she enjoys playing volleyball, but why does she always insist on playing volleyball in a short skirt on the basketball court? There's a dedicated volleyball court right there. I don't understand what she's trying to do. It's nothing but baseless rumors. As if anyone couldn't make up stories like that. My brother's face was incredibly dark, while Cindy's eyes turned red with grievance. Kathy, I don't know what I did to offend you, but you had your friend come and slander me with rumors. I shrugged and laughed boldly. I had my friend slander you. How could I have predicted that you would bring the volleyball club to train on the track field early in the morning, and that you would play the hero saving a damsel in distress? Right, of course I could predict it. These classmates are all my good friends, and the lines were carefully prepared. Am I the only one who can send text messages? Cindy looked at me with venom in her eyes, a truth that only the two of us knew clearly. She had been played by me. Seeing the doubtful look in our parents' eyes, my brother immediately spoke up. What's real can't be fake, and what's fake can't be real. Didn't you want to check the surveillance footage? Let's check it. Dad nodded and led the way into the surveillance room. Of course, there was no problem for parents to check their child's surveillance footage. With the specific time and location, the surveillance footage was quickly found, but unfortunately, that particular section was blacked out. The security guard scratched his head, looking bewildered. How could it be broken? It was clearly replaced with a new camera just a week ago. A flash of triumph crossed my brother's eyes. He had already instructed Cindy to erase the surveillance footage on his way here, I said with a half smile. Wow, what a coincidence that the surveillance in that specific spot is broken, while everywhere else is working fine. Mom and Dad's expressions didn't look good either. Cindy immediately cried thief to catch the thief. Maybe you deleted it yourself, just to frame us. My brother frowned and chimed in. So that's what you were rambling about early this morning. You came prepared, didn't you? Kathy, even though we argued the other day, you wouldn't go this far just to get back at me, would you? I don't care about myself, but you can't destroy a girl's reputation like this. Such eloquent words, so noble and righteous. Mom's face was livid. Kathy, this has gone too far. Apologize to them right now, and never do something like this again. Dad didn't say anything, his gaze sweeping between me and my brother. In a corner where our parents weren't looking, Cindy gave me a provocative smile. I curled my lips too. I had predicted she would come. So did you really think I wouldn't have predicted she would delete the surveillance footage? Who gave her such confidence? Her brother chimed in. Let's just drop this matter. I won't hold it against my sister anymore. From now on. Before he could finish, he was interrupted by the doll-like voice beside him. I have the surveillance footage from here. We happened to be having an English recitation here yesterday, and we set up a camera specifically to review the performance. I happened to have the USB drive with me. She excitedly took out a SpongeBob USB drive from her pocket and directly plugged it into the central control console. Good grief, all the surveillance footage has changed to show the corner of the stadium from yesterday afternoon. The video shows them reading English aloud with clear voices, and then skipping away happily after finishing. Next, my brother and Cindy sneak in furtively, and then start taking off their clothes and fighting. Brother is so great, I like it so much. The decadent music and the shocking images made even their mother, a married woman, blush with embarrassment. My brother hurried forward, trying to snatch the USB drive, but they blocked him. Every time he reached out, they would scream loudly, "Pervert, what do you think you're doing? Don't touch me, how scary, Jack, are you some kind of pervert?" My brother was trembling with anger but didn't dare to use force. He urgently winked at Cindy, who was frozen in fear. She reacted and rushed forward to grab the USB drive, but I was faster. The moment her hand touched my arm, I threw myself to the side. My pained cry immediately drew our parents' attention, and Cindy's hand, still reaching out, was ironclad evidence. "Whoa, it hurts so much, my arm is about to break off," they immediately shouted. Cindy got angry from embarrassment and hit someone. This isn't the first time she's bullied younger students, but I never thought she would dare to hit Kathy right in front of her parents. That's so arrogant, doing something like this at school. How shameless. The sound attracted many students who were running outside, all of whom poked their heads in, looking at the central control monitor and letting out excited exclamations. "Holy shit, Jack really lives up to his reputation as a rich second-generation heir. He's so wild." Cindy was brought in by him in the first place, and they're even wilder in private. Once in the library, it was even more intense than this. Father was so angry that his veins bulged, and he swung his arm, giving his brother a hard slap across the face. "You beast, how did I ever give birth to such a beast?" Mom pulled out the USB drive, tears streaming down her face. "You've really disappointed Mom and Dad so much." My brother covered his slapped face, daring to be angry but not daring to speak, his eyes practically shooting fire as he listened to the ridicule from outside. He had been doted on since childhood, so what if he was a spoiled brat? There were plenty of people who fawned over and curried favor with him, so what he valued most was saving face. He didn't feel embarrassed about being discovered fooling around, but he felt humiliated by being slapped by his father. Cindy collapsed to the ground, her face filled with despair. This completely cut off any chance of getting into my house. The dean of students arrived quickly, dispersing the curious students who were watching, and then led us into the office. The principal and vice principal were both there, although they didn't look happy. Their eyes were full of flattery. My father is a member of the school board, donating $3 to $4 million every year, a truly major benefactor. If today's incident hadn't blown up, at most they would have privately scolded my brother a few times and then demanded he break up with Cindy. But now that things have blown up, and my brother has completely disgraced our parents, harsh words were inevitable. "We won't interfere in this matter, principal, just handle it according to the rules." The principal was a shrewd person and immediately understood. Some students had previously reported that Cindy's character is questionable. She often hangs out with dubious men outside school, bullies classmates behind the scenes, and steals exam papers. Therefore, we've decided to expel her this time. As for Jack, considering this is his first offense and his usual good behavior at school, he will receive a verbal warning this time. If he commits another offense, he will be expelled. When this punishment was announced, Cindy quickly shouted, "No, I can't be expelled. Jack, please help me say something." Her brother really wanted to speak up for her, but he met his father's fierce gaze. He still backed down, hanging his head low, cowardly and spineless. My brother was put under house arrest, and because this incident became widely known in our social circle, my parents were completely humiliated. I got the top grade in the school for the midterm exams, which at least helped my parents save some face, and they started taking me to various family dinners, formally introducing me to the influential people in our circle. In my previous life, all these resources were controlled by my brother. Just because people called him Yen Master Su, he actually thought he was somebody, becoming arrogant and domineering. But I was different. Things I worked hard to obtain were especially precious. I was very sweet-talking and had an excellent memory. I remembered everyone my parents mentioned, even just once. As a result, in just half a month, everyone in our social circle was praising me for being sensible, well-behaved, outstanding, and having a boundless future. Only then did I finally find my place in my parents' eyes. My name also changed from Kathy to Miss Kathy. After being grounded for half a month, my brother came out, having gained 4 or 5 pounds. How could he not gain weight? He didn't have to attend classes every day, just lying in bed playing games. It couldn't have been more comfortable. Mom served him some food and said with concern, "What's happened is in the past. From now on, listen to Dad properly and don't cause any more trouble." The brother said obediently, Mom and Dad, I know I was wrong. I'll study hard from now on." Dad snorted coldly noncommittally, "If you can embarrass your mother and me less in the future, we'll be thanking the heavens." Then he put a piece of beef on my plate. "Kathy, I heard this math Olympiad is very difficult. Are you confident?" I said with a smile. "Dad, I'm your Daughter, after all, you're underestimating me too much. I guarantee I'll get first place. Dad was overjoyed. Won't that put too much pressure on you? I lifted my chin and said proudly, if there's no pressure, that just proves the award lacks technical substance. Dad patted my head, laughing loudly as he said 3 times, good, good, good. Now that's my daughter. Mom also praised. Not only will first place give you bonus points on the college entrance exam, but it will also be published in the newspaper. In the warm and harmonious family scene, my brother sat on the side like an outsider. He narrowed his eyes slightly, staring at me with a cold gaze, his face filled with indignation. This kind of cold treatment was something he encountered for the first time, and he felt very unbalanced. He couldn't understand why in just half a month, his parents' attitude toward me had changed so much. I smiled faintly at him. If he had come out half a month later, what he would have seen would have been far more than this. Just then, a servant rushed in frantically. Sir, madam, something terrible has happened. A group of people has arrived outside. The leader is Cindy, who claims to be the young master's girlfriend and is pregnant with his child. These words were like a thunderbolt from clear sky. My parents were stunned, and my brother was dumbfounded. Then came the sound of chairs dragging as they strode out, while I continued to enjoy my breakfast, milk, sandwich. Only after finishing did I leisurely walk outside. The entrance was bustling with activity. Kneeling on the ground with red-rimmed eyes, my brother said, Dad, Cindy and I truly love each other. She's already pregnant with my child. Please let her into our family. Cindy also cried pitifully, Uncle, Auntie, I know you don't like me, but the child is innocent. Are you really so heartless? Mom shed large tears beside them. A bystander watching the spectacle spoke up. What's done is done. Are you really going to refuse to take responsibility? They say he's still a high school student. Fortunately, he's already an adult, otherwise he would have been arrested. Either give her a proper status or compensation, otherwise, young lady, you should sue them. Father's face instantly turned livid. He hated being threatened by people more than anything in his life. Cindy quickly shook her head, her voice choking with tears. Uncle, Aunt, please don't worry. I won't report Jack because, just like you, I love him very much. I didn't quite understand you before, but after becoming a mother myself, I deeply understand how difficult things have been for you. If I can't get your blessing, I will break up with Jack, but I will give birth to this child. This is Jackson, my child, and it will be my cherished memory for the rest of my life. These words were very moving, and at the very least, her mother's expression softened. My father said coldly, Fine, you can marry into the Smith family, but the child in your womb cannot be kept. Having a child at 18, where would he put his old face? The look he gave my brother was also utterly cold, and his qualification as heir was completely lost at this moment. Before my brother could say anything more, my mother glared at him. You're so young, you'll have many more children in the future. I'll accompany her this afternoon to get an abortion, and then buy her a house as compensation. She'll live with us from now on. With this assurance, Cindy naturally agreed happily. Trading a child for entry into the Smith family was too good a deal. Brother naturally wouldn't refuse either, so the matter was settled. The show was over, and it was time for me to go to school. Dad reached out to help me with my books and said meaningfully, Kathy, you need to study hard from now on, you know. I nodded obediently. At this moment, my brother belatedly realized what was happening. He clenched his hands into tight fists. Glaring at me with a vicious look, I turned back and gave him a provocative smile, even mouthing the words, You lost. In this life, I no longer trust anyone, including my parents. The only person I can believe in is myself. I studied desperately, waking up at 6 every morning and not sleeping until midnight. I must ensure I can get into the best university in the capital, so that even if there are accidents in the future, I can still live well. Now the kidnapping crisis has been resolved, because my father's driver is giving me a dedicated ride, and the retired veteran is quite skilled. Every night, my father has me read in his study and then tells me some things about the business world. This used to be my brother's exclusive domain, but now he can't even enter the study. Every time he watches me enter the study, his eyes are filled with resentment. After all, I've already gained our father's favor and support, so his chances of winning are only 30%. What does he have to fight me with? Trash. However, Cindy was quite clever. She came in with a humble attitude, tried every possible way to please my mom, and secured her position. As for my dad, although she wanted to please him too, my dad looked down on her completely, treating her like a servant, so she gave up on my dad and me. She and my brother didn't dare to touch me, but she would leverage the situation, and if there was no favorable wind, she would create one herself. She started showing off her wealth on Weibo, dragging my brother to display their affection, and establishing all sorts of public personas. True love can cross class boundaries. My husband is the heir to a listed group, while I'm just a Cinderella from the slums. Fortunately, we were both brave enough back then. You are my pure love warrior, and I am your lifelong unwavering commitment, studying for the Finance MBA at H University with my husband, improving our capabilities to become better versions of ourselves. The wealthy couple, with their high attractiveness and inspirational story, spending money to buy trending topics for half a month straight, instantly became household names. In the comments section, fans showered them with all kinds of praise and envy, making their confidence soar. Just as I won second place in the National Math Olympiad, they also started an influencer company, recruiting many internet celebrities to build personas and began selling products. I have to say, Cindy has a business mind, at least better than my brothers. Seeing them making money, Mom started whispering sweet nothings to Dad at night, praising how great my brother was. After all, in her view, boys are the foundation of the family. She even instilled in me since childhood that I must be good to my brother, otherwise after marrying out, I would have no one to back me up when bullied by my husband's family. Both ridiculous and pitiful. Ridiculous that my mother, despite being well educated, still holds such feudal and traditional thoughts, clearly looking down on women despite being one herself. She was also pitiful, a product of the civilization of that era. She had grown up with the mindset of her grandparents since childhood, and invisible shackles are the most fatal. During dinner, my father openly praised me at the table. Kathy got first place in the province and second place nationwide in the Math Olympiad this time. Very impressive. Several old fellows in our circle are optimistic about Kathy and have even reserved her as a daughter-in-law in advance. How amusing. My father rarely talked so much. It was clear that he was truly happy. Several of the old-timers in the circle are at the top of the pyramid, and getting their approval brings great honor to Dad. Mom also smiled and chimed in, "That's right, our Kathy has been excellent at studying since she was a child. Even when taking exams with a fever, she could still make it to the top 5 in her grade." However, Jack is also very impressive. Although his grades are average, he's smart. He's earned over $3 million from Livestream e-commerce, and that's in just over a month. Imagine what it will be like by the end of the year. My brother and Cindy proudly raised their heads, waiting for Father's praise. Father scoffed disdainfully. "Over $3 million isn't even enough for your son's expenses for 1 year. The smile on my brother's face immediately froze. "Father, you can't say that. After finishing school, isn't it also about starting a business and making money?" Father glanced at him coldly, smiling in a way that wasn't really a smile. "Well, that's true. You took over $50 million from your mom and earned more than $3 million, which is just enough for the bank interest, but banks have no risk, while starting a business does, so you're better off keeping the money in the bank." This was a slap in the face. My brother's face turned extremely ugly, and Cindy spoke up, "Dad, you can't say that. Making money is slow at the beginning of a business, but once it's on track, you naturally earn more." Dad ignored her and casually took off his watch. "Worth over $3 million, and handed it to me. "Just focus on your studies and don't be jealous of your brother. I'll give you however much he earns each month." I blinked. "Dad, this watch was given to you by Grandpa. It holds great significance." Mom also spoke up to stop him. "Honey, this isn't right, is it?" Dad said with a smile. "What's wrong with it? It's going to be yours eventually anyway." Do you know whose child got first place in the national competition this time? The genius child from the George family, just 3 points more than Kathy. George personally praised Kathy, saying she has a bright future. "That kid even respectfully calls me uncle now." Mother's face instantly lit up with joy. "Then there's a way for our Smith family to enter the capital circle in the future." Although the Smith family is considered a top enterprise in City A, they couldn't enter the capital circle, which is the true top-tier circle. Brother and Cindy's faces were extremely ugly at this moment. Their eyes filled with resentment and venom as they looked at me. I gave them a slight smile. Wasn't it just about borrowing the east wind? As if anyone couldn't do that. My parents are each worth billions, so they couldn't care less about such trifling amounts. To them, reputation and status are more important than anything. I can help the company achieve great success, so it's destined to be mine, living this life again. I already knew the math competition problems by heart, so why would I settle for second place? Because I cheated. Before the exam, I took a problem similar to the final challenge and discussed it with him. His approach was wrong, so I provided the correct one, ensuring Carl got first place. When the rankings and exam papers were announced, he came to find me. "What's your reason for doing this? You get your first place, and I get what belongs to me. What do you want?" "The Smith family inheritance." "I can help you, but next time we compete fairly." "Okay, just a few Short sentences decided that my brother's streaming career was destined to fail. No matter how briefly brilliant it might be, Dad never believed in it to begin with, so naturally he wouldn't provide any resources. Mom really hoped my brother's career would be successful, even if the Smith family group wouldn't belong to him in the future. She still wanted to build him a kingdom, so they frantically threw money around, with overwhelming advertisements, and spent a fortune to become the title sponsor of a national variety show, but it was all for nothing, until finally Mom's private savings ran out and she was rejected when asking Dad for money, and my brother's streaming career finally went bankrupt. I sent a text message to Carl to express my gratitude. "Carl, it's fine, just pocket money, that's a drop in the bucket, otherwise I would have had to touch my personal savings." This is what a top-tier second-generation heir looks like. My brother, who is frustrated with his career, and Cindy started causing trouble for me, all because I ranked first in my grade and also first in the province during final exams. Not only did Dad reward me with a villa in the city center, but he also took me to attend the most important annual gathering in our social circle. My brother had already changed his clothes with Cindy, but they were stopped by Dad at the entrance. "I'll take Kathy with me, you two don't need to go." Having been suppressed by Dad during this period, my brother was also somewhat unhappy and retorted, "Why, you always took me before, and I'm your son too," Dad said lightly. "Now you remember you're my son. When I told you to obey before, you didn't listen. It's too late now." My brother immediately turned livid with anger, while Mom on the side wanted to chime in. I slowly said, "Mom, let's go, or it would be impolite to keep the uncles waiting." Mom hesitated for just a few seconds before patting my brother's shoulder. "You take Cindy out shopping, buy whatever you want, and Mom will pay. So what if your startup failed? Don't be discouraged, just start over, Mom and Dad will support you." The meaning was quite obvious. The Smith family group's future would be placed in my hands, which was why they had him start a business. My brother's veins bulged with anger, his eyes filled with venom as he looked at me. I smiled slightly, knowing this was the last straw that would break the camel's back, and he was about to lose his mind. At the banquet, I became the center of attention because Carl had invited me to dance, and I was his only dance partner. Several uncles and elders in our social circle were also very warm toward me, introducing their children to me and suggesting we should interact more in the future. Everyone had a great time, as they were all heirs and sufficiently outstanding. This time, I hold top-tier connections in my hands. No matter what changes occur in the future, I can build my own empire. "Kathy, be careful of the wind on the balcony, don't catch a cold." I turned back and took the coconut juice Carl handed me, smiling faintly. "You're being so nice to me, it'll be hard for me not to go easy on you in the next math competition," Carl said somewhat helplessly. "We agreed to compete fairly next time, don't look down on me like that." I blinked. "You've always been first place since you were young, how embarrassing would it be to get second place?" Carl said calmly, "A first place achieved by cheating, now that's embarrassing." I touched my nose, which was why I felt embarrassed about taking first place. Carl and I clinked our glasses gently. "I'll sell you a piece of information, consider it a bargaining chip for our next fair competition." I immediately perked up my ears. "When we were dealing with your brother's company, I discovered that Cindy had sticky fingers and was quite close to your father's competitor. Be careful that they'll destroy what they can't have." A smile played on my lips. This was truly good news, coupled with the hint from our parents just now that the Smith family would be inherited by me. That was truly the last straw that broke the camel's back. I want not only for the Smith family group to belong to me, but also for him to have nothing at all. Father usually has many matters to handle, and he spends most of his time in the study room, where many confidential materials are kept. Besides Father and Aunt Lee, the maid who has served him for over 30 years, no one is allowed to enter the study room. I can only enter when Father calls for me. So without thinking, it was obvious that my brother and Cindy wanted to destroy the company by selling confidential information to competitors. Soon, several of the company's upcoming new products were launched by rival companies first, and at lower prices. For more than half a month, my father's face had been grim. He reprimanded the company's senior executives, scolding them for how they handled confidentiality work, and demanding that the mole be found. They complained that after checking several times, the company's surveillance, computer, and internet traces revealed nothing. Another half-month passed, and these incidents continued, with the company announcing a loss of over $200 million this month. At the dinner table, when the brother asked their mother for money to invest, their father flew into a rage. Previously, the brother asking for money was a common occurrence, and while their father would occasionally make sarcastic remarks, he always gave the money. Readily, you only know how to ask for money every day, and every investment you make fails. You're truly embarrassing, my brother retorted. Didn't Dad also fail all the time when he first started his business? If he hadn't inherited Grandpa's company, he might not be successful now either. What greeted him was a slap from our father. After glaring resentfully at my dad and me, my brother pulled Cindy and walked out. Mom was sighing dejectedly beside me. In the evening, I knocked on the study door, and Dad rubbed his temples with a tired expression. Kathy, what did you need to see Dad about? I handed him a cup of hot tea and said gently, Dad, I've heard about the company's situation, so I went to ask Carl. Dad perked up a bit. What did he say? I blinked. He told me that the leak might not be in the company, but at home. How about installing a camera in the study? Dad's hand holding the teacup froze, his face turning ashen. I continued, Carl also said not to be soft-hearted. Father's eyes were deep as he looked at me with a complex expression. I met his gaze without flinching. I had made this up, but it wouldn't be a problem even if Father asked Carl, since he had taken the fall for me plenty of times before. Kathy, let me ask you something. If your brother was the one who did this, what would you do? I retorted. Then what is my identity? Father's eyes burned with intensity. Heir to the Smith family conglomerate, I said calmly. Prison, 10 years minimum. Father sighed. That's your biological brother, I said calmly. The fate of an heir isn't just about themselves. The tens of thousands of employees under them also have families, brothers and sisters. Being responsible for one person is family, but being responsible for a group is what makes a leader. Of course, when he comes out, he will still be my brother, and I'll ensure he lives a life of wealth and comfort for the rest of his days. Satisfied with my answer, Father nodded approvingly. He was both afraid that I would be too cold-blooded and disregard family ties, and also feared that I wouldn't have the iron-fisted methods to be the heir. That same night, Dad secretly installed surveillance in the study, and only he and I and the entire family knew about this matter. Immediately after, Dad deliberately mentioned at the dinner table that he had designed a game-changing product that was about to launch. They put on quite a show, with Dad having designers come to our home for 3 consecutive days, even discussing it during meals. Great, my brother took the bait, showing up right on time for dinner every day. After eating, he would even keep Mom company on the sofa watching TV. Mom praised him. Jack, you've grown up and know to keep Mom company now, my brother said with a smile, acting coquettishly. The person who loves me most in the world is Mom, so of course I have to stay with her. The loving mother and filial son, while Dad and I watched coldly from the sidelines. Cindy has been very busy lately. She has also acquired properties, many houses and cars, and even provocatively challenged me. Don't think you're so great for inheriting the Smith family conglomerate in the future. The company is in turmoil now, and it might just be an empty shell by the time you take over. Even if we get through this crisis safely and make money, won't you still be earning money for me and your brother to spend? Do you know how many houses and cars are under my name now? Enough for me to squander for the rest of my life. I smiled slightly. Then I'll really be looking forward to that. 1 week later in the afternoon, I was in my room preparing things I needed for school when I suddenly heard my father's angry shouts coming from downstairs. I walked downstairs and found the entrance to the study crowded with onlooking servants. There were also quite a few people standing inside, including company executives and designers. My brother's face was swollen from being beaten, with blood trickling from the corner of his mouth as he knelt on the ground, a ghastly sight. Cindy was kneeling beside him, her face pale and trembling. Mom looked at me as if I were her last hope, grabbing my hand with her eyes red from crying. Kathy, Dad loves you the most. Please try to persuade him. He's going to beat your brother to death. It was just a little information leak, right? Jack has already admitted his mistake and promised not to do it again. Let's just let this matter go. Are you really going to send him to the police station? He's your own son. I walked over to my father and made him a cup of tea. Dad, it's good that the matter has been investigated clearly. The losses are still within a controllable range. Have some tea to calm down. Dad took the tea from me, his hands still trembling. It seemed he had fought quite fiercely. Kathy, what do you think we should do about this? This was establishing my authority in front of everyone. But of course, he didn't want to be the villain either. Hearing this, my mother instantly breathed a sigh of relief and said firmly, Kathy, you two siblings have had a good relationship since childhood. Your brother was just temporarily confused this time. Just scold him a few times and it'll be fine. Cindy also breathed a sigh of relief and pleaded, yes, Kathy, just let your brother off this once. Even my brother's tense body relaxed. The high-ranking figures nearby secretly shook their heads, their faces filled with frustration. Everyone thought I would let My brother go, I curled my lips, my eyes full of mockery, and slowly said, although he's my brother, if he's broken the law, he's the same as anyone else. Call the police. Gasps of astonishment rose from the crowd. My brother suddenly stood up, his eyes blood-red as he glared at me. On what grounds? I'm your older brother. I lifted my head and said firmly, but you committed a crime. If you were short of money, then at least there would be some reason for doing this, but you're not short of money, so you did this purely out of willfulness. Do you know how many innocent people were fired because of your willfulness? How many people live and work in constant fear, when they might be carrying the heavy responsibility of supporting a family? Brother, you've really disappointed me. The senior employees' eyes lit up as they looked at me, and several of them had red eyes. Cindy immediately shifted the blame, saying, "Isn't this all because of you? All of this originally belonged to Jack. You're the one who snatched it away from him. Can't you understand he's just retaliating because he's angry?" I looked at her coldly and said sarcastically, "Back then, you seduced my brother in school, then got pregnant to force your way into the Smith family. That's what made Dad completely lose faith in him. Your brother gives you over $100,000 in living expenses every month, but you think it's not enough. You just had to marry into the Smith family, and in just half a year, you've transformed from a poor student into a millionaire. All of this stems from your greed. Although my brother and I didn't have a very good relationship before, I know him. He loves our parents and our family, and he would absolutely never do something to destroy the empire our father worked so hard to build." Dad also investigated. "You've been very close with our competitor for 2 months now. You were the one who made all the connections, weren't you?" In an instant, Cindy's face turned pale. She wanted to open her mouth to explain, but her mother's hand had already struck her face. "I knew my son couldn't be so cruel. It's all your fault. You instigated my son to become like this. You bitch, you whore. Today I'm going to beat you to death." My brother hurried forward to try to stop the fight, but my mother was too angry. Grabbing Cindy's hair and slamming her against the cabinet, Cindy reached out to dodge, but accidentally pushed my mother against the cabinet, and instantly, bright red blood gushed out. Instantly, cries, curses, and people trying to break up the fight descended into chaos. I stood by the window, enjoying both the sunset and the chaotic crowd. Soon, police sirens sounded outside the window, and the melee only ended when police and doctors entered simultaneously. Among them, Cindy was beaten the most severely. After all, my brother is still a member of the Smith family, and the employees were somewhat wary, but she was different now, beaten until she was spitting blood. Mom didn't defend my brother anymore, because she was already covered in blood, and her life was more important. In the hospital, Mom scolded me for being cruel, but she mostly cursed at Cindy. She didn't have any serious injuries, just a mild concussion, but Cindy had 3 broken ribs and her face was disfigured from the beating. But what was worse was that she still had to go to jail. 2 months ago, the profit she made from selling company secrets was enough to put her away for 20 years, and she also had to sell all her fixed assets to compensate the company for its losses, so she ended up with nothing. And when she saw me, she was furious. "Kathy, you bitch, you did all of this, didn't you?" I smiled slightly. "You're not as foolish as I imagined. By the way, I've arranged for a few good sisters to take care of you in prison. They'll look after you well. Of course, I'm not one to play favorites, so I also went to visit my brother, who was similarly imprisoned. He had shaved his head, looking haggard and listless, and had become as thin as a monkey. He watched me through the glass, so excited he was about to jump up and down. "Little sister, please get me out of here. I know I was wrong. I won't fight you for the company anymore. It's all yours." I rested my chin on my hand and smiled slightly. "You really are more stupid than Cindy. She already knows this was all a carefully orchestrated trap by me, and yet you still haven't figured it out. Even now, you're truly as stupid as a pig." My brother started to go berserk, his eyes revealing a murderous glint. "You bitch, I knew it was you who did all this. I'm going to tell Mom and Dad, and we're going to kill you, you bitch." I played with the watch on my wrist, smiling freely. "You can't get out anymore. The moment you went in, it was destined that you'd never come out." He started crying like a madman again. "Sister, I'm your biological brother. You can't treat me like this," I sneered coldly, "since you know I'm your own sister. You still discuss selling me to a mountain village with her." He was shocked. "How did you know?" I smiled slightly. "Your beloved Cindy told me. She said everything, begging me to let her go." "You're so foolish, actually thinking she really likes you. Do you know how many men she slept with before she met you? Besides, after being with you, she cheated on you countless times." "TSK, TSK, TSK, amid my taunts, my brother started hysterically smashing things before eventually being taken away by the prison guards. So on the day of the court hearing, as my brother brushed past Cindy, he took a sharpened toothbrush and viciously stabbed it into her stomach. Blood splattered all over his body as he revealed a ferocious and terrifying sinister smile. "You bitch, how dare you cheat on me and betray me, you deserve to die." Actually, my brother would have gotten at most 10 years, and with some connections, he might have been out in 3 or 4. Now he'll never get out. That was clearly my home, and I was the one who was forced to leave. This family and Dad acted as if he never had a son, carefully paving the way for me to become the CEO of the Smith family group. Cindy couldn't be saved and died. My brother was sentenced to life imprisonment. I arranged for several tough guys to take care of him every day inside, making him live a fate worse than death. After the math competition, Carl's ranking was below mine this time. He looked at me with burning eyes. "Congratulations." I curled my lips into a smile. "You're welcome. I won't be participating in future competitions, so there will be no one competing with you for first place." He snorted lightly. "Then what's the point of the competition?" Me. Everything that followed went very smoothly. I was admitted to Capital University in my second year of high school, and in my third year, I began working at my father's company to familiarize myself with the business. My brother died 4 years later, on the same day as my death in my previous life. While there was music and celebration at home, he died in the cold prison. All of this was just right. After hearing the stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.